All right, guys, what's going on? What is happening? Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert. I see we've already got a couple guys in the live chat already. See, we got Tefs in there, Grayson, Ethan P, Cyclone Mitch. Of course, always glad to have you. Border Bob, haven't heard from you in a while. Always glad to have you as well. Ryan Mel just joined. I hope you guys can hear me. Let me know if you're having issues hearing or if you're having issues seeing, anything like that. We're filming off of the laptop today and obviously going casual today as well. We're switching things up a little bit. I know it's a little bit different. Street Fair, Brody L. What's going on, guys? Always good to have you. Legalized Quack. Everybody's strolling in now. I'm super pumped to have you guys. All right, so if you guys follow us on Twitter, if you have checked out our post notifications here on YouTube, you know tonight is a very big night. And Donnie Wester, thank you so much for that. Guys, the super chat is on, of course, as it always is during our live streams. Every single bit helps. So, Donnie, I haven't seen you before on a live stream, man, but I appreciate that more than you know. So, thank you so much. And if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button because you're not going to want to miss anything we do here at the Gridiron Expert. Emperor of Rome, I see you. How you doing? Mike Myrick, doing good. Hope you're doing well. And go Knowles, as always. So like I said, guys, this is a very big night because tonight we are doing our first ever live call-in show. And I'm hoping this works the way I want it to. I'm hoping this goes smoothly. And we were able to get some very good discussion going tonight. Finally, you know, past couple live streams, we've been taking your questions and trying to scroll through the comments, which we will still do. But it's going to be a little bit better because we can hear your voice. We can actually kind of have a conversation, hear your actual analysis going through this stuff. So I'm excited. I hope you guys are too. We're about to give you guys the number. I'm going to put it in the chat so you guys can refer back to it. I'm going to repeat it a couple times every now and then so you guys can get there. Biggest thing to know is I assume we're going to have a lot of callers. I assume everybody's going to be blowing up the phone. So if you don't get called on or we don't answer your call tonight, don't worry. We're going to have plenty of calls coming back. Plenty of live and call-in shows down the road. So don't worry about that. If we do pick up the phone, we might put you on mute right off the bat so we can talk a little bit what's going on through the chat or kind of finish up a point we were talking about, and then we'll take you off mute and we'll start talking. So be prepared. They're going to prompt you for your name. When you call, they're going to ask what your name is, say it, and then it'll come straight to me. So we're going to get things started. Oh, man, Emperor of Rome, not going to be able to call in. Doesn't have a phone. Hey, no worries. We'll still take your questions and comments here from the chat. But, hey, no worries at all. And, of course, he's probably going to provide us with some excellent trivia, I'm sure, down the road. Even though we're doing call-ins, I'm sure we'll still get some great analysis from him. So here we go. If you guys are ready, I'm ready. We got 11 people on the chat and on the stream right now. We appreciate that. 4 likes. Hit that like button as you're coming through. Helps our analytics, helps us out a lot. So hit that like button. And before we start, one more thing. We got 12 people. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Instagram. Check out our official website. The link is in the description below, along with all the other information you need to know. But if you like college football, obviously, if you like college football spread picks, if you want to sign up for our newsletter for some extra analysis and some content that you won't get anywhere else, go to our website, thegridironexpert.com. Go there, check it out, and sign up for everything we have there to offer. I promise you, you're not going to want to miss out on any of that. The expert picks, I know a couple of you guys are already done, are blowing up like crazy. So I hope you guys jump on that before the season starts. All right, so here we go. I'm going to put the number out here right now on the chat so you guys can refer to it. And let's hope this goes the way we want it to. So we've got 901-297-4545. That is the number to call into. And like I said, we might not be picking up immediately. We will answer your phone, might put you on mute, something like that. But we're going to try to get to as many of you guys tonight as possible. And like I said, we're pumped about this. We're pumped about this. And we're going to put you on speaker, and hopefully it's going to pick up well, and we can get a conversation going. So call in 901-297-4545 is the official number for tonight. So, Grayson, yeah, we will talk about Texas. You call in, we'll talk about Texas. We just posted our Oklahoma football predictions. We just posted our Texas football predictions. Got Oklahoma going 11-1. We have Texas going 10-2 with respectable losses to Iowa State and LSU, which is going to be a very tough game, but one of the most exciting games, in my opinion, for the 2019 season. Husker D, good to have you. pumped to have you here. I don't think I've seen you before on a live stream, so we're always glad when we get new people, along with Donnie Wester, of course. Appreciate once again that contribution, and Husker D and Grayson. Haven't talked to you much lately, but glad to have you as well. Hey, Cyclone Mitch, I had no idea, man. That's pretty cool. Sit in the same section you did the Iowa State football predictions. Had no idea. That was right in the end zone. I don't know what end zone, north, south. I can't remember, but we walked in through one of the club sections, and we're able to go through. They had something going on, Mitch. You might know about this. The Iowa Games going on there. Some like Olympic type sports, Olympic type events going on in Iowa. They were hosting those there. We were able to get in and go down the field for a little bit, check that out, get a prediction film there. So that's pretty cool that you sit there too. CFB Fanatic, what's going on? Glad to have you. Hunter 5657, what's going on? Of course, appreciate both of your comments every time on one of our prediction videos. You guys are both pretty quick to respond and share your predictions and analysis there as well. So we definitely appreciate that. Always good to get some other opinions on our record. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we don't. So once again, guys, this is a live call-in show. We'll take your questions on the chat, but we will take your questions over the phone as well. 901-297-4545. It is in the chat as well. DM, I'm so pumped you can make it. Rushed home to get here. Hey, man, well, we appreciate that. That means a lot for me. So thank you for joining us. It wouldn't be a live stream without you. Wouldn't be a live stream without DM, Cyclone Mitch, Emperor of Rome, and Comic Dude 45. He was yet to join, but I'm sure he will be here soon. So, but no, we're pumped to have you. And Border Bob, thank you. It's almost football time. God, I'm pumped. God. It's taken too long. When you get so close, I think the days get longer. You're so close to football season. We're July 26th, so we are less than a month out from week 0, that Florida-Miami game. So I'm so pumped for that. So we're close. But thank you for that contribution, Border Bob. That means a lot. Everything goes a long way here. Every single bit counts. So we really, really do appreciate that. Joe McLean, we will get to your question in 1 second. Hunter, I'm not going to be doing the Sun Belt next. We have to finish the Power 5. So we're going through the Big 12. We've done, I think, 4 teams. 2 more coming out tomorrow. Trying to do 2 a day. SEC predictions will start on July 31st. We'll get through that, and then we'll do our Group of 5 conference recap. So Ryan nailed it on the head there. We'll do our recaps for that and go from there. So we won't be doing game by game for Sun Belt or the American Athletic or the Conference USA, but we will make sure to do conference recaps for the Sun Belt. So no doubt in my mind. So Joe, my thoughts on South Carolina are this. I mean, if you're a South Carolina fan, Joe, you know what's up. They've got the toughest schedule in all of college football, and that's super unfortunate for the Gamecocks. They've got to face obviously their Eastern opponents. So you got Florida, Georgia, an up and coming Tennessee team, a Missouri team that could potentially win 9 or 10 games in 2019. And in their cross division, they've got Alabama, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's Texas A&M. Then, of course, Georgia at the end of the season. So by far the toughest schedule in all of college football, and a handful of those on the road. But it has to be said, this is probably Will Muschamp's best team at South Carolina. He's got a veteran crew. I know they lost like Deebo Samuel. I know they lost him to the NFL draft, but they do return a decent crew of wide receivers. They've got arguably one of the best quarterbacks and most experienced quarterbacks in the SEC with Jake Bentley, Rico Dowdle back at running back. And Will Muschamp, guys, he's a defensive-minded coach. I mean, he got his start as a defensive coordinator, so his defenses are usually fairly strong. Usually. We've seen that at Florida at times. We've seen that at South Carolina. I think he was defensive, if I'm not mistaken, defensive coordinator at Auburn at one point. So we know that what he's capable of defensively, and this South Carolina defense returns a lot of starters and experience across the board that I think will really benefit them down the road. So, yeah, I think South Carolina, despite having that tough schedule, Joe, it will go bowling. The problem is I don't know if they're going to be able to beat Alabama, even though they host that game. I don't think they're going to be able to beat Clemson, even though they had over 500, 600 yards of offense against the Tigers last year. I don't think they're going to be able to beat Georgia at Athens. So it's such a tough schedule, but I still think that they managed to win 6-7 games. You take away a handful of those games with this South Carolina team under normal circumstances, not this type of schedule, they would win 8 or 9 games, and that'd be a phenomenal year. It's just they luck of the draw, or unluck of the draw, really, more than anything else. Let's see. Tef, you think Texas A&M has the toughest schedule? Maybe, maybe not. Texas A&M, yeah, it is tough. Of course, playing on the road against Clemson, all of their Western opponents, Alabama, LSU, guys like that. I think, I'm trying to remember who A&M draws out of the East. I don't think they draw Georgia, if I'm not mistaken. But no, it is a tough schedule. Not, in my opinion, as tough as South Carolina's. So I like this here. What we got? Ryan just ranked the Group of 5 conference rankings. American Athletic at 1, Mountain West 2, MAC 3, Sunbelt 4, Conference USA 5. Man, I agree with American Athletic at 1. I would agree with Mountain West at 2. I would almost throw Conference USA up as high as number 3. I don't think I'd put them at last. Sunbelt and MAC, who are you taking as the MAC as being okay, so Ryan, you were right. A&M does play Georgia. I thought they did. I just couldn't remember. But who do you take out of the MAC? You've got Toledo. You've got Western Michigan, who a couple of years ago under PJ Fleck was really good, but now they're like 6-7 win team. They got Ohio, obviously, with Nathan Rourke and this Bobcats team. They can put up some points in 2019, but I don't know collectively as a whole if they deserve to be third out of those Group of 5. I think Conference USA deserves to be up there because based on consistency, you have a team like UAB that kind of came out of nowhere and has been doing a good job. You've got Middle Tennessee. You've got Florida Atlantic who thrived under Lane Kiffin just 2 years ago, had a very disappointing 2018. So there are a couple of Conference USA teams that I think are a little bit better, but 3 through 5 debatable. 1 and 2, no doubt. American Athletic could be classified as a Power 6 in my opinion. That's how good they are. Houston, Memphis, UCF. A bunch of up-and-coming teams now that are playing. Navy's in there. You never want to underestimate a Navy team. So, yeah. But I think you could maybe put Conference USA up as high as 3. Maybe you put it at number 4. I don't know, and go from there. See what else we got here. Silly Goose. I haven't seen you before either. So, like I say, for anybody new here, we've got 22 on the stream, and we appreciate that. Once again, the line to call in is 901-297-4545. But for anybody that is new here, hit that subscribe button. We would appreciate any subscription, guys. We have cracked 2,000 just a couple weeks ago. That was a huge milestone for us, but every single one counts. Every contribution counts. Every subscriber counts. So, but Silly Goose, thank you for joining us. Middle Tennessee State, they're an interesting team going into 2019, man. And I don't cover Group of 5 as much, especially in the Conference USA, but I do know enough about them. So they lose Brent Stockstill, which is the coach of Rick Stockstill, which is the head coach of Middle Tennessee State. So you lose one of the best quarterbacks to ever come through that program in 2019. So you got to replace him. That's going to be tough. Yet they still will be a contender in the Conference USA. They'll still be a contender for that championship. I think they could very well win 6 or 7 games in 2019. And I haven't done them yet. I haven't gotten to that prediction yet. Of course, it'll come out in our recap, but we'll wait and play that by ear. Obviously, that's all you can do. But I think there's still. I have a lot of faith in Rick Stockstill. Even without his son, because his son he was there before his son. He coached some games without his son, whether he was out with an injury or for whatever reason. So he's been able to do a great job with the Blue Raiders program. And I think they're going to be just fine. It's just get your first year without one of the best passers to ever come through your school, your program. It's going to be tough to redo that and build that back up. Jake does sport. If UCF goes undefeated this year, do I think they deserve to be in the playoffs? Well, Jake, if you look at their schedule compared to years past, the past 2 years when they've gone undefeated, this year they would have a win over Pittsburgh and they would have a win over Stanford. And that Pittsburgh win doesn't give them much. That doesn't matter much because they annihilated Pittsburgh last year. So beating them again, even though I think it's on the road this year, doesn't mean much. That Stanford win, and that would be impressive. They get to host the Cardinal. They win that game. They If they win that game, then that's over a quality Pac-12 opponent that could very well win 8 or 9 games and maybe surprise under David Shaw and win the North for all we know against the likes of Washington and Oregon and guys like that. But I wouldn't go that far. But if they go undefeated, no, they probably will not make the playoffs. I think the only team that goes undefeated and has a legitimate shot at making the playoffs is Houston. And that is because in Houston's schedule, they would have a win over Oklahoma, Washington State, a good North Texas team, everybody in the American Athletic that's on their schedule, which would include the likes of a UCF or a Memphis. It would include Memphis, but it would include more likely UCF in the American Athletic Conference Championship game. So if any group of 5 teams making the playoff, I think it's Houston. And that would be by going undefeated. Of course, they drop a game, they're done. I don't think they beat Oklahoma. Obviously, you saw that in our prediction. I don't think they beat them at Norman, at Oklahoma. Washington State, they have a chance to beat just because it's at a neutral site and practically a home game for Houston. But I don't think UCF gets there. No. And your question was more, do I think they deserve to be in? Strength of schedule matters. Strength of schedule is so important. Their strength of schedule is better this year than maybe it has been in years past. But I just don't think that even if they go undefeated and run the table and beat a Houston or a Memphis, whoever it is in their championship game, that they deserve to get into the playoff as a top 4 team in the entire country. You'd be pairing them up with SEC champion, Big Ten champion, potentially Oklahoma out of the Big 12. Obviously, ACC was Clemson, assuming they win it. I mean, it'd be tough. Let's see. We're getting a lot of comments here. Tef, Oregon, Auburn. Is that a pick'em game to you? The FPI certainly thinks so. The FPI has them at, I think, like a 50-50. I think they might slightly favor Auburn right now, like 50.5, 51%. I mean, it is right down the middle. But I don't think I'd go as far as pick'em. When you put on paper, some people might not like to hear this, but on paper, Oregon is the better team. Plain and simple. You look at, put it on paper. Tell me that they're not. They've got Justin Herbert. Boom, they already have the quarterback edge there. I like C.J. Verdell better than what Auburn's got at running back. I think the guy rushed for over 1,000 yards last year. I think he's more than capable of doing it again. The only thing that I think Auburn has the edge on right now is a slight edge defensively, especially on that defensive line. Defensive line way better than Oregon's. But guess what? Oregon counters that with one of the best offensive lines in the entire college football, in all of CFB. So I don't think that you can sit there and tell me that Auburn on paper is simply better. Now, of course, paper doesn't mean anything. It's going to be what they do out in the field. But I think Justin Herbert is able to get enough plays done against his Auburn secondary. I think that Oregon offensive line holds their own against what could be one of the best defensive lines in the entire country. So while it is kind of split 50-50, and it was a tough game to pick, Tef, don't get me wrong. It's tough. I like Oregon. I like Oregon in that game. So if I were them, I'd be leaning over 50% for Oregon. I could be proved wrong. I liked Washington last year to beat Auburn in the season opener, and they fell by 5. So, I mean, who knows? But there's still a lot of unknown for Auburn. It's still a major change for Auburn. Malzahn going back to calling those plays. So it's going to be a brand new season for them and a lot of opportunities. But I will say this: if Auburn falls in week 1, everybody's going to be calling for Malzahn. And you still got games against Alabama and LSU. I mean, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be really tough. Let's see what else we got question-wise. Ryan Bell, I like that. I think Georgia goes 11-1, and I can guarantee that loss will either be at Auburn or Texas A&M. And I will tell you what, Ryan, if I'm leaning towards one of those, I like the at Auburn game. I think they fall. I'm not saying that as a definite, but I think if they were to fall out of those 2 games you mentioned, I think it would be on the road against Auburn. That's the type of game, that rivalry game where that defensive line shows out, and it's so far late in the season that whoever's at quarterback for Auburn, whether it's Bo Nix or Joey Gatewood or for all we know somebody else, although those are obviously the top 2, that they're going to have enough to be settled in, and especially with this new offense, or not new, but Malzahn now calling the plays. So, yeah, I would lean more towards the Auburn way in that one if they go 11-1 and choosing from those 2. Legalized Quack, obviously an Oregon guy, knows his Oregon football. The Oregon-Auburn game is going to be low scoring. I'm obviously an Oregon homer, right? But I'd take the +3 in a low scoring game. So take the 3 points, right? So apparently Oregon's a slight underdog right now, I definitely would be taking Oregon right now. And you'll know that for sure if you sign up for our expert picks. Shameless plug there, had to do it. But if you sign up for the expert picks, that's obviously going to be a game that we have on our spread picks that we give you about anywhere from 10 to 15 picks a week against the spread. And Oregon, if I were to choose right now, I would be taking Oregon in that game. Amari K, talk about Alabama. Amari K, call in and we'll talk about Alabama. We'll get to them in a second, but give me a call and we'll do it. See what else. We got a couple comments here. Hunter, do I think Notre Dame will be as good as last year? No. No, they're not going to. They went undefeated last year, and it's just not going to happen this year. The schedule's too tough. At Stanford, at Georgia, at Michigan. They're dropping at least one of those. I hate to say it. The team's good. I love Ian Book, and now Ian Book's got his whole season, the entire season, as starter for the Fighting Irish. So the talent's there, but they're not going to win all of those road games. Border Bob, Notre Dame will not be good. 10-2, bingo. That's what I predicted. I can spoil that now. We were at Notre Dame. We were in South Bend, right in front of Touchdown Jesus, bringing you the Notre Dame football predictions. And we have them going 10-2 with losses to, I think, Michigan and Georgia. I think they can go on the road and beat Stanford, but I think they fall to Michigan and Georgia. And that's still a good season. 10-2, probably good enough to get them into a New Year's Six bowl game, I would think. Playing off against a decent opponent there. You win that game, finally winning a big game, you're 11-2. That's a phenomenal season. Not college football playoff, but still really, really good. And I know Ray probably doesn't like to hear that, but. So I like this. Emperor of Rome, which of my predictions am I least confident in? So that's a really good question and a tough one. Man. I need to have all my predictions sitting in front of me right now, my team-by-team predictions and who I've got. But I'm just trying to backtrack and think of who we've already done. We've done the Pac-12, and I think I feel good for the majority of that. One of the things that I think is interesting is I do these predictions, Emperor of Rome. I do them, and then the guys that are fans, diehard fans of these teams, come back and they list out why I'm wrong or why I'm right. And these guys obviously watch these teams closer. I mean, you think about it. I'm a guy that watches all college football games. I mean, yes, I have a team. I'm a fan of Arkansas. But on top of that, I study every single other team. So I've got a lot of teams I'm covering. A lot of people just hone in on one. So they might have a little more inside info and a little more stuff and seen more things than I have. So when I hear these things, sometimes I second guess myself. I've already made the prediction. I never change a prediction based off of what someone tells me. Like, oh, you're wrong. It's gonna okay. Well, I guess I am right. I don't do that. But that is a tough thing to hear. Is when I'm looking at that, I'm like, oh, maybe they have a good point. Maybe they know more than I do when it comes down to that specific team or that specific position. But I would say, honestly, Emperor of Rome, I would lean towards maybe some of the teams that I have not doing too well. I have Kansas going 2-10. I could very well see them pulling off an upset. I couldn't, pull the trigger. I couldn't give them that edge and give them a win in Big 12 conference play. Yet I love Les Miles there. I do, but I just couldn't do it and give them that edge. So I didn't. Okay, 2-10. And when I was looking at it, I just didn't see a game where I thought Kansas was more talented than that other team, or maybe they're even, but home field advantage plays a role. So a Kansas team or a Colorado, Nebraska's one. Emperor of Rome, I'm getting a lot of hate on. The people are, I got them going 10-2. And a lot of people are like, no, it's 7-5, 8-4. But when I look at that schedule, I'm one of those guys that bought into the hype of Nebraska. So maybe that one. Got a guy on Twitter dogging me about the Pittsburgh pick. I think I've got them going 4-8 or 5-7. So he's hating on me for that. So maybe that one's one I'm like, maybe they can pull off something. Pittsburgh's a team that always surprises. Same with Duke. I've got them missing a bowl game. David Cutcliffe's the type of guy that I've got going 5-7. He'll end up winning 8 games in 2019. So a couple teams in there that I'm like shaky on. I'm sure there will be more come down the road. But we just got our first caller. Let me get you guys back up here. Hold on. There we go.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
We're going to go back to our iPhone here.
Accept, press 1. To send a voicemail.
So we just got our first caller. We're not going to forget the rest of you guys in the comments here. But we're going to take our first caller, the first ever on the Gridiron Expert. Who do we have on the line?
We have Hunter 5657.
There we go. We got Hunter 5657. Hunter, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great, Gridiron Expert. I was just wondering, what are your thoughts about Iowa State?
Iowa State. Okay. All right. Fair question. So, Hunter, if you went back and watched our Iowa State prediction, you saw we have them going 9-3. We have them beating Texas. That's kind of our big upset pick for Iowa State. I think we have them losing to Oklahoma. We got them losing to Baylor and Kansas State. But this Iowa State team is a team that I've repeatedly said is probably the third best team in the Big 12 right now, behind Oklahoma and Texas. I've reiterated that over and over and over again. And
but Gridiron Expert, let me tell you something.
All right, bring it.
What do you have thoughts about Boise State? You haven't talked about them yet. Like, do you think that they'll go 10-3 again and be ranked?
Or we're switching from Iowa State to Boise State?
Yeah, I mean, like, do you think that they'll make a bowl game and go 10-3 like last year?
Oh, yeah, no doubt that they're going to make a bowl game, Hunter. Boise, under Brian Harsin, has never failed to make a bowl game. They're going to do it. Boise's one of the best group of 5 teams out there. 10 wins, I don't know. If they get their 10th win, that's probably going to come in their conference championship game, assuming they make it, or maybe in a bowl game. I don't know if they're going to reach 10 in the regular season. You'll have to wait to find out about when we do our conference recaps for the Mountain West. But I do think that they are going to be one of the best in the Mountain West again.
Well, I have one more question, and then I'll watch the stream still.
Okay, you got it, bud.
What are your thoughts about Fresno State? Because they were a sleeper team, and they made a huge thing. They ranked 12-2 last year.
You said Fresno State?
Yeah, Fresno State.
Yeah, so sticking in the Mountain West, Hunter. So what you've got with Fresno State, what Jeff Tedford has done with the Bulldogs is absolutely unbelievable. I think he took over a 1-11 team, or maybe went 1-11 in his first year, and like you mentioned, won 12 games just last year. So it's a phenomenal job. I think was one of the more underrated coaching jobs of 2019. But what a lot of people don't know, and what I'm an offensive guy, Hunter. They lose Marcus McMaryion at quarterback. They only return a handful of starters offensively. McMaryion was so talented, not just through the air, but he could beat you on the ground too. And that's something that I think is going to really hurt Fresno State. They're not going to match last year's 12-win total. They could fight for another spot in that Mountain West championship game. They beat Boise last year, and that was a pretty big upset. So you're right. They were a sleeper team last year, kind of emerged out of nowhere. Not going to match last year's win total, but they'll once again make a bowl game under Tedford, no doubt in my mind.
Okay.
All right, man.
That was my final question. I'll probably call you in the next stream, probably.
All right, man. Sounds great. Well, I appreciate it. You were the first ever to call in on the Gridiron Expert, so you can take a little pride in that.
Wait, what? What did you say?
You were the first caller ever to the Gridiron Expert, so you can take some pride in that.
Okay.
All right, man. Have a good one.
You too.
All right. All right, so there you go. That was Hunter 5657. Talk a little Mountain West football there. First caller to the Gridiron Expert. So, like I said, he can take some pride in that. Good kid, good kid. Jumping back onto the stream. So, guys, don't be gun shy. We already had a guy call. So if you've got some questions or comments or something that you want to discuss that could take a little longer than just talking in the chat, bring it on. We've got 30 viewers right now on the live stream. I think that's the most we've ever had. 31, just increased it. So thank you guys all for watching. Let's jump back into this chat for a little bit until we get another call. Talking a little bit about Notre Dame here, as we mentioned, legalized quack earlier, talking about Mason Fine. And obviously one of the best quarterbacks. I'm going to go as far to say not just one of the best quarterbacks in the entire group of 5, but one of the best quarterbacks in the entire nation. That is no doubt in my mind. He's very underrated because he plays at a school like North Texas. And some will say, oh, he's putting up good numbers there. Try sticking him in the SEC. Try sticking him in the Big Ten. I think he can put up numbers there too. Sometimes you miss out on some big-time talent, some of the bigger state schools, and they end up biting you in the butt. Arkansas, obviously, Fine's not from Arkansas, but as you mentioned, legalized quack, he annihilated them. I think Arkansas would have killed to have a quarterback like Mason Fine last year over the likes of Cole Kelly and Ty Story. Ryan Mel, Georgia can go undefeated, but they won't. That's the case for a lot of teams. Every team has that schedule. Like, oh, this is very undefeated, a chance to go undefeated, but we'll probably screw up against this team. I saw someone comment that about LSU, saying LSU has the potential to go 11-1, maybe undefeated if they can upset Alabama, but they'll screw up somewhere. They'll fall to a team they shouldn't. Someone said that. Maybe they fall to a team like Florida or an upset on the road against Mississippi State. Or maybe on the road to Texas. Like, they've got the talent, but they're going to slip up somewhere. Every team can say that. Every team has that loss year in and year out. Like, we should have won that game. And it's just the way it goes. So Georgia probably has the potential to go undefeated, but they probably will slip up somewhere. The same thing that happened last year. They slipped up against LSU on the road. And that wasn't a bad loss. It was just the way it happened. All right, Anna, we're going to jump back in. We got another caller here. We're going to jump on this. And right now, hold on, bud. We're going to put you on mute for 1 second. And we're going to address a couple questions real quick because we're so far behind on them. And then we will jump on to your call. So MCD Sports 4 right there. Glad to have you. And DM still on the line. And Ray still there as well, trying to flip through here. Comic Dude 45. Yeah, Comic Dude, I will stick the number back in the chat. Let me do that right now. For anyone else that has not seen it. Call-in number is 901-297-4545, and we will get to some of your questions here. DM, don't be shy to call. We want to hear from you. We want to hear from you and everybody else here on this chat, all 26 of you. So do not be afraid to call at all. We want to hear some college football thoughts from you guys. So Michael Schneider, I see your question too. Who is your playoff teams? I will get on that here in a second. And Tef, you should call in as well. I see that as well. But we're going to take this call right now. Who we got on the line right now?
Mason Stewart.
Mason Stewart, of course. I know about you, man. You sent me a couple DMs and comment a lot on the videos, and we appreciate that. So, Mason, how you doing?
Good. How about you?
I'm doing good, man. What's your question or your comment? What's going on?
I got a quick question for you.
What's up?
And Clemson and Alabama, weren't really, if they weren't, in the playoffs somehow, and I know they would, who do you think would win the national championship?
Okay, so that's not a bad question. For those of you that maybe couldn't hear it, you take out Clemson and Alabama from the college football playoff. Who probably wins the national championship? And MCD Sports 4 took it right out of my mouth. I believe that would be Georgia. I believe that would be the Georgia Bulldogs. Because you look at the teams that are going to be playoff contenders this year, Mason, and obviously Georgia is one of them. LSU is one of them. And we've got another call coming through. Whoever is calling right now, we will make sure you call right back. We're going to continue talking to Mason here, and then we'll pick up your number. Don't worry, though. We will get to you. But I do believe it would be Georgia, Mason. You've got Georgia, Texas, Michigan, LSU, guys like that. And if you take out Clemson and Alabama, I think your playoffs could consist of a 4 teams like Georgia, Michigan coming out of the Big Ten, maybe Notre Dame, maybe Ohio State if they can get over Michigan, guys like that. But I think Georgia right now is the most talented team. We got to think about this, guys. Georgia nearly beat Alabama a few years ago for the national championship. They nearly beat Alabama in the SEC championship last year. The talent is there. They just can't get over that hump. You remove Alabama, I think Georgia can compete with anybody. So that would be my pick, Mason.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, you got it, man. I know that makes you happy too as a Georgia fan. So.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
All right, man. Appreciate it. All right, so we've got another caller coming on here in a second. Like I said, if we got a lot, bombards the phone. We're not able to put you on hold or anything, so you just got to keep trying. But right now, lines are once again open. 901-297-4545. Whoever just tried calling, give us a shout back. We would love to hear from you. Jeff Wilson, my thoughts on Kentucky. I think we've talked about Kentucky quite a bit, but a team that won 10 games last year, a crazy year for the Wildcats. I don't think anyone saw them winning that many games. But beat Florida, they beat Mississippi State. Could have been even better had they not lost in overtime to Texas A&M. So, but they closed out the year with a win over Penn State, and that was a phenomenal win for them. I didn't think they'd do it. This year, though, Jeff, and we've got a call right now. I'm going to answer your question. Let's get this on the line here.
Hey, it's Comic Dude. What's up?
All right, so Comic Dude, I heard that was you. Give me 1 second. We put you on mute so I can finish.
Hey, what's up? How's it going?
Doing pretty good, man. Give me 1 second. We're going to finish Jeff's question here, and we're going to get right to you. But
Can you hear me all right?
yeah, can you hear us? Comic Dude, can you hear us?
Oh, hang on. Sorry about that.
Hey, all good. 1 second. We're going to finish talking about Kentucky, and then we're going to get right to you.
Okay.
Yeah, so, Jeff, to finish up your Kentucky thing, they won't win 10 games again, but they will make a bowl game. There are people out there right now saying that Kentucky will maybe win 5 games, and those people don't know what they're talking about. They have the talent to go bowling. It's there. They lose Josh Allen, I know. They lose Benny Snell, I get it. But they bring back their leading wide receiver. They bring back their quarterback in Terry Wilson, who's dual threat, I should add. And Mark Stoops knows how to coach a defense. Kentucky will be just fine. Not 10-win fine, but will be just fine. I see them winning anywhere from 6 to 8 in 2019. And a bowl game for Kentucky fans, that would be phenomenal for them. So we're going to get back here in a little bit. Paul Harkin, of course, appreciate your comments, loving the content. We're going to take Comic Dude's call right now. So, Comic Dude, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still there. What's up?
All right, man. How's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. We're glad to have you. Glad to have you on the line.
Oh, pleasure. My pleasure.
So what can we do for you? What's your question or comment?
My question is, how excited are you for the football season? 150th anniversary for me, so I'm stoked.
Oh, man, I know for you, you are stoked. I mean, for those of you that don't know, Comic Dude, a huge Rutgers fan, goes to Rutgers, is in the band there. So I know it is, especially Rutgers being like the birthplace of college football, it's a very big deal. So, but man, for me, I'm thrilled. I know you weren't here at the beginning, but someone asked me earlier. I just can't wait. I just can't wait. And as we get closer and closer, the days get longer and longer. So this is going to be a very fun year. There's been a lot of talk out there, guys, about college football. It's getting boring with the likes of Clemson and Alabama continuing to dominate. I don't think that's going to be the case this year. Yes, those guys are going to be elite, as always, but this year has something different about it. And I'm very excited. The 150th anniversary, I feel like something special going on in the air. So, Colin, dude, I'm psyched, and I just can't wait to get the ball rolling on August 24th.
Yeah.
So, man, we appreciate the call, and I hope things are still going well up in New Jersey, and you get to travel to all these Big Ten stadiums this year.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be fun.
Absolutely,
Year, baby.
Absolutely,
special.
Absolutely, man. We're hoping the best for you, and hope the best to Rutgers as well.
All right, you too. Cheers, Nate.
I'm sorry.
Cheers.
Cheers, as always. All right, man. I'll catch you later. All right, so that was Comic Dude 45, of course, one of our most frequent viewers and subscribers and commenters, obviously doing great things up at Rutgers. So I know we missed a couple of calls, and guys, that was something we had to be prepared for. I figured as we got going. So don't get discouraged if we don't answer. If we don't answer, it's because we're on another call. And you just keep calling back, and we'll try to get you as much as possible. So just like I said, this is great stuff, though. I feel like this is going better than I could have expected. So. Ray 7337, bold comment. Uncle Lou will need a grief counselor after week 4. So Ray predicting a loss for Georgia. Notre Dame going on the road to pull off the upset. We have got a call from Ohio, and they hung up. But anyways, maybe we'll get another one here in a second. Let's see what else. Yes, Comic Dude, the number was from Memphis. That was the only one we were able to get. So Mike Myrick agreeing with me there that this season will be different than it has been in years past. And I do feel that. I feel like there's something in the air. I think we're going to get a different team in the playoff. Clemson, Alabama, not necessarily as big of a lock as Clemson, I think. But if you get someone different in there, you maybe sneak in another Georgia, you sneak in a LSU, maybe a Michigan, just something to add something different to college football in 2019 to not make it as predictable. We're ready for it. We're ready for it. And like Comic Dude said, with the 150th year, anything is possible. Jeff Wilson, I see your comment. I'm going to take a picture of that when that's over and probably frame it on my wall. Gridiron Expert is better than SG1 Sports. I appreciate that more than you know. I'm a fan of all college football content out there. Mark Rogers, Uncle Lou, SG1 Sports. but that one means a lot. I appreciate that. SG1's got some great content over there, but my biggest issue is he doesn't predict all the games. He doesn't predict each individual game. You know, you got to take a risk. As an analyst, you're right, great. If you're wrong, oh well. You eat your words, and so be it. That's the way it's going to be. You don't dwell on it for too long. That's the fun of predictions and the unpredictability of predictions. So don't worry about it. Just predict all the games. So that's what we like to do here. MCD Sports 44. We'll put it back out there. But we've got, once again, our live stream going right now and our live call-in show. If I can get that back up. I need to probably put that out a couple times here. But 901-297-4545 is the call-in number. And there we go. We've got our caller coming in. Of course, every time it goes straight to our laptop. So we are going to put whoever is on the line here. Who do we have with us right now?
It's me again.
Okay, all right. What's going on, Hunter?
I was just thinking, and what do you have thoughts about Navy, Army, and Air Force? What do you have thoughts on all those military teams?
So sticking with the military academies, the best military academy out there right now is Army, hands down, a team that could very well win 10 or 11 games once again in 2019. Air Force is a team, Hunter, that's going to surprise in the Mountain West. And when I mean surprise, I mean they went 5-7 last year. Expect them to win 7 or 8 games in 2019. Navy, though, is the team that's going to bounce back more than anybody. They went 3-10 last year. What's that?
Do you think that's actually a good bowl game this year?
Which one, Navy or Air Force?
Both, actually.
Air Force, yes. Navy, yes. I think Navy has a major bounce back year. They only won 3 games last year, but I think they do bounce back and win that, and they win a handful of games to get back to a bowl game. That was uncharacteristic for them. The schedule's tough. American Athletic, that's tough. They used to be an independent, so moving to a conference makes things a lot tougher for them. But they will make a bowl game in 2019.
And I have one more question.
What you got?
Well, it's not actually a question. It's just a little thing, to be exact. Well, the first video that I saw of yours was the Clemson predictions.
Okay.
And that was when you had, like, I think 1,500 subscribers, I think.
We had a little more than that when we posted Clemson, but yes, we didn't have 2,000 quite yet.
Yeah, but that video was amazing. And the reason how I watched it is I was just scrolling through my recommended and I found this. And I watched it and it was like, I want more of this. And so I turned the notifications on and you post every day.
I do. Yeah, that's true. We post about twice a day when we're in prediction season. Yes, sir.
The reason why I watch Clemson so much is because I actually live in Clemson, downtown.
Okay, so you're close to them?
Yeah. I'm actually very close to the stadium, actually.
Okay, nice. That's awesome. So are you a Clemson fan?
I went to the oldest game of the year. Let me tell you something. I went to the oldest game of the year in Clemson. The Duke game.
Oh, yeah? Yeah, towards the end of the season. That was right before the last week of the season. I was actually watching that game on a repeat on the ESPNU's Top 25 Games of 2018. So I do remember that game.
Yeah, the refs were terrible in that game. The refs were freaking terrible in that game.
Yeah, well, Clemson still beat them 35-6, so.
Yeah, we had a slow start at first, but then we started making grounds and we started getting good.
Yeah, I agree. Well, Hunter, we're going to cut you off, bud. We got a couple people that are still trying to make some calls, and like my guy DM just said, we're going to try to limit it to one call per stream, unless we obviously hit a dead spot. So we're gonna cut you off, but great content. Thank you for calling in, man.
Thank you.
All right, man. All right, so DM, that's right. Yeah, we're going to try to cut them off most of the time and get back to our chat up here. Mike Myrick, I appreciate those kind words as always. And look at that, we've got another caller. And guys, I apologize every time we get a call. It probably cuts away for a second. But from Los Angeles, California. Let's see who we got on the line right now. Who do we have right here?
Hello?
Can you hear us?
Yeah, am I on here?
You are on the air. Yes, sir.
Oh, thank you. So basically, this is about college football, right? Because I'm kind of new to this.
Yeah, who's on the line? Who's speaking?
You can just call me TJ.
Okay, TJ. All right, what you got, man?
All right. So basically, what I want to know is, I had a question about college football. I was wondering if your dick is big. Hello?
Yeah, TJ. You know what, TJ? We don't really take calls like that. We don't really take calls like on the air. So we got people like that to call in every now and then. What's going to happen when you have a call-in show? So hey, what you gonna do? Can't stop the trollers. We got our moderators in the chat. We can't have moderators on the call-in show. So hey, so be it. So be it. We got a caller in from Maryland now. Let's see if this one's gonna be a little bit better. All right, if I heard that correctly, I think we've got MCD Sports 4 on the line. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
All right, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Thank you for calling in.
Yeah, absolutely. The reason I'm calling in is I had to talk about your Maryland prediction.
What about the Maryland prediction?
I have to talk about it.
Okay, let's bring it. What you got?
They're not going 5-7. They're going 8-4.
8-4. Okay. Tell me why. Tell me why.
Yeah, Meg Loxley is, I think, one of the best offensive minds, one of the most underrated offensive minds in the country. He's going to be coaching 2 top 25 recruiting classes as well. And I think this offense is going to be one of the fastest paced offenses in the country.
And the entire country.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So to counteract that, what we have to understand here, look, I'll never dog on a brand new head coach. Because anything's possible. One of the best head coaches that I've got in mind that did a phenomenal job in his first year. I go back to Gus Malzahn at Auburn. In his first year at Auburn, he got them to the national championship game. So anything is possible with a new head coach. You can't rule anybody out. But what we have to understand about Maryland is, while I do like their offense, while I love how they bring back Josh Jackson, a guy that was poised for a great career at Virginia Tech had he not gotten hurt. And I love Anthony McFarland. We saw what he did in just that running game period against Ohio State last year. We have to give them time for the learning curve. McD Sports 4, we have to give them time to handle that curve. So I don't know if the offense is going to be as fast-paced as you think, because while it's all, it's nice to think about, I don't know if they're going to be able to do that in just year one.
True, and that's a very good point you brought up. But I know one Achilles heel is going to be the defense this year. I know defense isn't good.
Right.
But I mean, and I do agree with you, we will beat Syracuse this year, but I was hoping you have that bowl game, at least. Even if it was at 6-6.
Right. So, if you go back and watch the Maryland video for you and for anybody else that's curious about that, I list a couple games in there that I think could go towards Maryland's way. I think, okay, this is kind of a toss-up game. Maybe they pull off this upset, and that gets them to bowl eligibility. Because you've heard me say that I don't, when I picture a rebuilding year for any new coach, you're thinking maybe anywhere from 2 to 4 wins. 5 wins is 1 win away from bowl eligibility. And keep in mind, I have Maryland beating Nebraska, a team that I'm very high on in 2019. So you look at that, and maybe a couple of games go their way. Maybe they steal an upset here and there to get them to 6-6. But right now, I'm basing it off of, while the hype is there, while this is a new era, because I know Maryland went through some very tough times with DJ Durkin this past off season. So while the excitement is there and there's a chance to kind of redeem themselves and to build this program back up, I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling it yet. I think wins over Nebraska and Syracuse. I've been pulling off the upset over Syracuse. I think that's pretty I'm trying to think what I'm trying to generous for Maryland. So maybe they pull off an upset in Big Ten play to get to 6-6. But I think 5-7 is probably the most realistic right now.
I mean, I know I'm a delusional Maryland fan, and I'm saying how we're going to beat Michigan this year because that's a trap game for Michigan.
Sure.
But, I mean, we'll see what happens. But I was just kind of disappointed because I was like, I'm just very high on this year, especially the offense. Like, I get the defense, like, it's terrible, but.
Well, the problem is, like they say, and I hate to be cliche, but they say defense wins championships, and not saying that Maryland was not going to win a championship this year, but while their offense can be very potent this year, the defense has got to be able to stop the offenses like Syracuse, Nebraska, Michigan, and guys like that. So if the defense can't step it up, and I think they do a little bit, but if they can't step it up, then it could result in 5-7 or even worse. And so that's something that we got to keep in mind as well. You got to be able to play both sides of the ball.
Yeah, I think the worst case scenario for us is 4-8. So hopefully we don't go 4-8 or 5-7. Hopefully at least 6-6. But I have expectations this year for us. So we'll see what happens. Thanks for taking my call.
Hey, you got.
I'll continue listening.
All right, man. I appreciate you calling in, and like I said, I hope the best for Maryland. I hope they go bowling for you, but we'll just play it by ear. But hey, thanks for calling in. All right, guys. So we've missed a couple calls, and like I said, just keep calling in. If you miss it, line's busy. We're on a call. You call back, and we're gonna get you. Like I said, we'll put you on mute probably at the beginning, and then we'll put you right back on. So let me go through the chat a little bit here. Who else we got? Let's see. Still talking. Husker D came from Mark Rogers right before here. That's pretty cool. Call from Hollywood, Florida. We're going to put this guy on the line right now. We got you on mute right now, so just give us 1 second, and we will take your call. Give us one moment, please. So we're here. Like I said, yeah, we had that troll a couple minutes ago, but hey, that happens. I expect that to happen just about every time we have a call-in show, and look, I'm not too worried about that. Who is the Ball State guy? Is that Silly Goose? Man, he definitely is a silly goose talking about Ball State. I love it. I love talking about the MAC. Yeah, spread it out. But Ball State is in Indiana, for those of you that don't know. But I love that we're talking a little different this time. So let's see. Silly Goose, we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But right now we're going to take this call from Hollywood, Florida. Who do we have on the line right now?
Am I on the call?
Yes, sir. You're on air.
All right. I'm a Miami fan and love watching your channel. Great content. I mean, it's great that you have us going to championship 10-2, but I really think we could go 11-1 and our only loss to Pittsburgh. I mean, we could have a great year.
So this is bold. I'm intrigued. So you think Miami can go 11-1, but their lone loss with that schedule comes to Pittsburgh?
I believe we can. I mean, Pittsburgh got us in 2017 when we were riding high and kind of ruined our season. So who knows? I think we could either lose to Pitt or Florida State.
Okay. Well, if you go back and watch the Miami video, I mentioned that Pittsburgh is that trap game. That's a perennial trap game, obviously. But I think with the schedule that they're going up against, Miami facing off against Florida in week 1, Florida State on the road later on, and then obviously the rest of their coastal opponents. You've got Virginia and Virginia Tech in there. Luckily, I think they get to host both of them. But I think they're more likely to lose a home game to Virginia or Virginia Tech than maybe Pittsburgh, even though that's on the road. And like I said, yes, they did beat them 2 years ago. Absolutely. And it's possible again. I'm not potentially high on this Pittsburgh team in 2019. I think with the loss of their running game, Darren Hall, Quadri Olison, I'm a little worried about that. Just from a Pittsburgh point of view. But if Miami is riding high, if we have them, undefeated at the time going into Pittsburgh, that's what happened last time. They were riding high and they probably overlooked Pittsburgh and like you said, ruined their season. They even still had a chance at the college football playoff had they beaten Clemson, and they got annihilated in that game.
I really think we're gonna still go 11-1, but lose to Clemson and Charlotte.
Wait, okay. So I'll say that again. You lose to Clemson and Charlotte. Okay, so you think you'll lose to them in the ACC title game? Well, and I don't think anybody's going to beat Clemson this year. You know?
Oh no, absolutely not.
Yeah, I don't think anybody beats Clemson in the regular season. Whoever they face out of the Coastal, whether Miami, whether that's Virginia, I don't think they lose to them. Virginia sucks. I would beg to differ. Virginia Tech. Possible coming out of the Coastal. But if anybody's going to beat Clemson, Clemson will lose in the college football playoff. If they lose, they will come in the college football playoff. So, but no, Miami, a lot of high hopes. I didn't have a lot of high expectations for them. And when I first started, when I kind of started doing predictions, I was like, 7 or 8. And I did a little more digging, looked a little deeper into Miami, and realized they've got not only got the talent, but they've got a very favorable schedule to potentially win 9 or 10 games and win that division in year 1 under Manny Diaz.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So.
I really think Florida is like in our spot last year against LSU.
So okay, right. So you're saying that Miami
we're coming in as underdogs.
Yeah. So you're basically saying you think Miami is will annihilate Florida, much like LSU annihilated Miami.
Yes.
I gotta beg to.
not only that, we probably able to best in the country, and one of my favorite coaches, Manny Diaz, the turnover chain back, and I think it's just going to give us a whole lot of hype.
And it might. It might. I think the hype is there, but the hype's there for Florida too. This is a team that has their eyes set on SEC East title, and I think I love Felipe Franks. I think he's a guy that can that doesn't get enough credit. This Florida offense under Dan Mullen's only going to get better. You saw the drastic change that was there in 2018. I think it gets better in 2019. And then, of course, we've got a Florida defense that tries to pride themselves on being DBU. I wouldn't go as far to say that, but will once again be strong. So, but I don't think this game in Orlando, that's where it's being played, I don't think it is a blowout by either team. If Florida loses that game, it's going to be close. If Florida wins that game, it's going to be close. Miami's going to give them a fight and show that Manny Diaz has got this team going in the right direction.
Yes, I agree. It will be a fight.
Yeah, no doubt. So, well, man, we appreciate it. We're hitting about the 6-minute mark on this call, but we'll definitely keep our eyes on Miami. And shortly after that week 0 game between the two, we'll be doing a live stream on that, and we'd love to hear from you then.
Yeah, definitely, man.
All right, man.
Thanks a lot for having me on the call. See ya.
Great. Appreciate it. All right, guys. So we're talking about Miami and Florida there, of course. Going through the chat once again. And we're getting a call from Bristol, Rhode Island. We are going to put this guy on mute as well just for a second so I can talk a little bit on the chat. So, caller, hold on just for 1 minute and we will get to you. 1 second, please. So, going through the chat here before we jump onto our call. Silly Goose still talking about Ball State. Husker D, Nebraska making the Rose Bowl this year. Husker D, I'll tell you what, if Nebraska goes what I think they're going to go, and that's 10-2 and making a spot in the Big Ten championship game, they can make the Rose Bowl because I think Michigan beats Nebraska. Michigan probably gets in the college football playoff. That's who we have projected right now. Then you've got your second best, a 10-3 Nebraska team that absolutely can make the Rose Bowl. So if Nebraska lives up to their hype, they very well could make that New Year's Six bowl game. Jake does sports. Who do I think every Power 5 conference champion will be? If you go watch our recaps for the Pac-12 and the Big Ten and the ACC, you'll get 3 of them right there. We're wrapping up the Big 12 in a couple days, and then we'll wrap up the SEC in a few weeks. So I'm not going to spoil those yet. But we've got Utah coming out of the Pac-12, Clemson coming out of the ACC, and Michigan right now coming out of the Big Ten. So make sure you go check those out and stay tuned for the Big 12 and the SEC. John Hopkins, hey, no worries, man. No worries about being late. Glad you're able to join us. Trying a little something new tonight. It's a big night here at the Gridiron Expert. We're having a blast with it. And our last question here before we take this caller, college football fanatic, my thoughts on Bryce Perkins. Obviously, if anybody's looking at this, you see that college football fanatic is a Virginia fan. He's a Virginia guy. And I'll tell you this, I think Bryce Perkins is one of the best quarterbacks in the entire ACC. I might even go as far to say he's the second best quarterback behind Trevor Lawrence. I think he's a phenomenal quarterback. I think he's going to be even better this year than he was in 2018. Kind of emerged out of nowhere, I felt like, in 2018, but showed that he was legit. He's going to improve as a passer, and he can already beat you on the ground with his legs. So I think he's a great quarterback. I think he's in the upper echelon of ACC quarterbacks, and probably, in my opinion, he'd be in my top 25 of quarterbacks in the nation. He'd be in my top 25, top 30. So definitely want to take a look at that. And Mark Rogers, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. If you guys, a lot of you guys watch my show and you watch Mark Rogers as well, he's doing a phenomenal job over on his channel. I kind of stole this idea for him, the little call-in show. So, Mark, appreciate your support. We need to cut a segment here sometime. You and I, we need to get together and get on my show or your show, and let's cut a segment and get in touch here soon. But thank you, sir, as always. All right, caller, I'm sorry we kept you waiting. Who we got on the line right now? You still there? Maybe not. Maybe I lost him. We got a caller on the line. Can you hear us?
Hello?
Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. I'm sorry.
Hey, no problem. No problem. Who we got on the line right now?
This is Hunter from Virginia Tech.
Okay, Hunter, how's it going?
Doing well. So I want to ask you a question about what you said earlier tonight. You said that this season may be different than Clemson and Alabama because it's the 150th and all that. And while I respect that, the thing is, Alabama and Clemson have the best two quarterbacks in Tua and Trevor. So I don't see that happening. But tell me why I'm wrong.
Well, don't misconstrue my words. I never said that Clemson and Alabama would not make the college football playoff. That was a question that we had earlier. The question was, if Clemson, hypothetically, if Clemson and Alabama were not to make the college football playoff, who would win the national championship? And we said Georgia. I said that I felt like this 150th could be different in the sense that we can get someone different into the college football playoff or see some bigger upsets. Maybe Alabama or Clemson finally loses in the regular season. But I never said that they wouldn't make it there. But the point I was trying to make, with it being the 150th, everything, that's obviously a major milestone. It was a matter of people have criticized college football the past few years for being, their quotes, of boring and too predictable, of knowing that Clemson and Alabama are just going to dominate their conferences for the most part. Alabama, of course, has had issues against Georgia in the SEC title game, a couple near upsets here and there, but for the most part have annihilated their opponents. So it's almost inevitable that those two teams would meet in the college football playoff and the national championship. To me, that's very similar to the likes of people with the Golden State Warriors. When they formed that super team in the NBA, it was almost a foregone conclusion that the Warriors would be NBA champions when they had Steph, Clay, Kevin Durant, DeMarcus Cousins, Draymond Green. I mean, it was ridiculous. So I never said that wouldn't happen. I just felt like this is a year that we might get to see something different, that maybe you see a team break through and make that top four that hasn't been there yet. Or maybe we see a more handful of upsets like back in 2016, where we had the number 2, 3, and 4 teams in the country all lose on the same day. Something like that just gives this season an extra bit of excitement and unpredictability and chaos that I don't think we've had over the past couple of years.
Okay, gotcha. And my second question is about Virginia Tech, obviously.
Of course.
Recently graduating from there.
All right, congratulations.
Yeah, appreciate it. I was a little disappointed. Disappointed is an understatement about this past season, but we did have a lot of youth. But I'm still concerned, even though we have a soft schedule. I don't know if I have a great feeling about this season either, because a lot of those guys that are returning, we've also lost a lot of guys to the transfer portal. So I was wondering, is there a possibility they don't make a bowl game, even with a soft schedule, because they have to go at least 7-5, having scheduled 2 FCS opponents? Right.
No, you're exactly correct. Look, that's a tall task in and of itself. But when you look at it, you beat those 2 FCS opponents, you're going to have to win just 5 other games outside of that. So you win your 2, you win 5 games, you win 7 games, you're good to go. But I just don't think that that Virginia Tech can fail to make a bowl game. I mean, they almost missed out last year, as you know, had to schedule, I think it was Marshall at the end of the season to get bowl eligibility, and then fell to Cincinnati. So you're right. If you look at it being soft, I think I had them losing to a handful of teams. Miami's one of them. I think I have them finally losing to Virginia, guys like that. But to me, this team is just has too much talent. I know you mentioned a lot of people being lost to the transfer portal, and that's an issue. And you don't want to get me started on that, the whole transfer portal issue. But I like this defense, man. I think Bud Foster didn't have all of his pieces in place last year. It was kind of a disappointing year for Virginia Tech. Looked promising, but one thing we have to keep in mind too is Virginia Tech battled a handful of injuries last year. Of course, losing Josh Jackson. I think Ryan Willis came in and did a phenomenal job taking over for him. I think he's going to be even better this year in his first full season as a starter. So I don't think the possibility of missing a bowl game is that I would be shocked. I would be shocked if Virginia Tech only won 6 games, let's say, and missed out because they scheduled those 2 FCS opponents. I don't think, if I had to give a percentage on it, I say there's like let's say 90% chance they make a bowl game, and that's assuming that they don't live up to the hype. If they don't live up to the hype, and this talent doesn't live up to its expectations, and yeah, they can miss out. But I have a lot of faith in Justin Fuente to bounce back in a big way, and same with Bud Foster on defense.
Awesome. And real quick, should they add Tevy and Feaster at running back? What will that do to Virginia Tech offensively?
Well, offensively, it's going to give the boost that they need. I mean, you look at that; they didn't have, much of, in my opinion, they didn't have the much of a running game last year. You add that piece at running back, and you now take a little bit of pressure off of Ryan Willis. You take away his pressure to win the games through the air. If you can add him on the ground, give yourself a bit of a running game, and then maybe utilize him in the passing game as well, it just gives you a threat that takes a little pressure off of Willis.
Awesome. That's all I got. Appreciate you taking my call, and keep up the good work. I love your channel, man.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate it. Thank you for calling in.
No problem. Have a good one.
You too. All right, guys. That was some good Virginia Tech talk there for any Hokies fans on the line. I saw we had Mark in here, good friend of mine. Great stuff, as always, over on his channel. Tef, I think, appalled maybe by his saying that Clemson and Alabama have the best 2 quarterbacks in Trevor Lawrence and Tua Tagovailoa, but I think we can, most of us agree on that. I think those are the top 2 quarterbacks in the entire nation, in my opinion. We're going to take a call right now. Once again.
Call from.
All right, so we've got a call on the line right now. We're going to put you on mute, sir, just for 1 second. We're going to put you on mute so I can go through the rest of the chat, and then we will bring you on. Husker D, GE, Mark Rogers, and Uncle Lou need to make a college football discussion debate live stream. My goodness, that would be amazing. That would be a whole lot of fun, a whole lot of viewers, and a whole lot of fun and debate. And, man, I couldn't think of anything better. If we can find a way, and I know we can, to get a 3-way live stream going, that would be a heck of a night. That'd be a heck of a night. Looking through the rest of the comments here. Mike Myrick agreeing with me once again. Season's going to have some surprises. Sir, we are on the line right now. We're going to get you on in 1 second. We got you on mute. Just give us 1 second. Joe, just Joe. Do a quick perusal of the odds of winning the national championship. Let's pick a winner right now. Joe, I like that. Let me take this call, Joe, and I will do just that. Husker D, you subscribed. I appreciate that. And Silly Goose unsubscribed. So it cancels out. But hey, all good with me. I'm sorry we're not talking much about Ball State. Call in. Maybe we'll talk about it. Cole Converse, most exciting to least exciting Power 5 conferences to watch. If I had to rank them 1 to 5. SEC at 1. I would probably go as high to say Big 12 at 2 just because of the offense, the amount of offense those teams produce. So SEC 1, Big 12 at 2. I think I would say Big 10 at 3, ACC at 4, Pac-12 at 5. That's just me personally, if I'm ranking the Power 5 conferences. I know that was really quick. I'm actually impressed I got that off the top of my head like that. But I guess that's how I truly feel in the heart. But those are my top 5 there. We will get Just Joe's comment here in a second. Doing the odds, I like that idea. Doing a live, picking the national championship right now. So we will get on that. But right now, we are going to take this call. Once again, Husker D, I appreciate that. And Cyclone Mitch, we will probably be ending this live stream about 9 o'clock. So we're going to get about 20 to 25 more minutes. So just a ballpark it for you if you need to get somewhere or want to stick around. So, all right, sir, we've got you on the line. We've got you off mute. Who are we talking to?
This is Ryan now.
Ryan, all right, man. How's it going?
Pretty good. I don't know if it's been obvious from any of my comments that I'm a huge Georgia fan.
I picked up on that.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty obvious too. I just wanted to ask, we've been talking a little bit about schedules off and on about the live stream, and talking about how some of these schedules in the SEC are so hard. And I'm of the opinion that Georgia actually probably has the hardest November stretch in the SEC. I don't know if you would agree with that. That's kind of my opinion. What do you think about that?
Let me take a look here, Ryan. I obviously don't have Georgia's schedule in front of me, but I will. Let me pull that up. I want to see what we're dealing with here in Georgia. I know they face Auburn and Georgia Tech, of course, in November. Let me pull them up right now. I want to take a look at their schedule and just see what our thoughts are on that.
I can tell you off my head because I pretty much have it memorized.
I'm sure.
I know it's in Jacksonville, and then it's Missouri at home, and it's at Auburn, and then Texas A&M at home, and then it's at Georgia Tech.
Okay, so there you go. We've got November stretch for Georgia for those of you that are picking up on that. And right here, we've got Florida kicking off in week 1 for November, the first week of November. Yeah, Ryan, I don't know if I'd say it's the toughest November stretch in the nation. I'd have to do some digging on that. I honestly have to sit down and compare. But I will say this. Do what?
I didn't think it was the hardest in the nation. I haven't looked at every schedule.
Sure.
But I thought it was the hardest in the SEC.
Yeah, you can make a case for it being in the SEC because I do believe that more so, I think they take care of A&M at home. I know someone earlier mentioned that they think they might fall. That could have been you, I don't know, but that they could fall to Texas A&M. But the fact that Georgia gets to host that game in Athens, I think they beat the Aggies. And I think they take pretty easy care of Georgia Tech, a team that's going to be dealing with a lot of changes with Jeff Collins, switching to that pro-style offense. But that 3-game stretch there of Florida on the road, Missouri at home, a team that can win 9 or 10 games, and then Auburn on the road. And Florida, of course, being played in Jacksonville, not at the Swamp. That's what concerns me more than anything for Georgia. And I think if anything, Ryan, and tell me if you disagree, I think if Georgia is to lose a game, it will come in the month of November.
Oh, absolutely. I'm probably 100% sure that Georgia is 7-0 to their first 7 games going into their second bye week. I think it's that probably that 3-game stretch that you mentioned is definitely where you'll see a loss if there is one.
Right.
And I do think there will be one.
Yeah, I think there will be one too.
I don't know if you know this. Georgia is 0-3 in the Kirby Smart era on the road against the SEC West.
Okay, so there's an interesting fact there. And, of course, as we all know, you've got Auburn and the SEC West on the road for Georgia.
We lost to Ole Miss in 2016, Auburn in 2017, and, of course, last year, LSU.
Right. And I would say that Auburn game, even though I'm not high on Auburn, you have this game, a rivalry game where records don't mean anything, and you've got an Auburn team that's, by this point, November 16th, will have worked out any issues at quarterback, and that defensive line, barring some crazy injury or something, is going to still be one of the best in the entire nation. And that to me is that big trap game for Georgia.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll be a trap game necessarily, but I do think it will be a very difficult game at the very least.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. And if Gus Malzahn's still around, I can't imagine Auburn firing Gus Malzahn prematurely early in the season, kind of like LSU did with Les Miles. But his job could be on the line come that game against Georgia, assuming Auburn's not living up to their high expectations.
Okay. And Auburn's just such a hard team to really pin down. I don't know what they're going to do.
I agree. I've already done my prediction for them. I haven't released it, but I've got it. And they were a very difficult team to predict because this is a team for Auburn that could really go anywhere from 6 wins to potentially 10. That's how big of a gap this Auburn team has. So we'll have to wait and find out there.
Yeah, well, thanks for taking my call. Love listening to the show. Love watching your videos. Great job.
All right, Brian, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate all the comments. So thank you for calling in, and make sure to call in on the next one.
Okay.
All right, man. Take it easy.
Sure.
All right, bye. All right, guys. That was Ryan Mell, of course, a frequent commenter, big-time Georgia fan, as we all know. And once again, we'll be ending this stream in about 15, 20 minutes. But for those of you that are wanting to stick around, 901-297-4545 is the call-in number, and I will put that run one more time out in the chat. Cheryl Jensen, I've been seeing your name pop up a lot here. And let me see what I've got with that. She is an Army vet. So, guys, obviously, thank you, Cheryl, Army veteran. I think it's the first time I've ever had a veteran, to my knowledge. If there's anybody else on the line that is, I apologize, but our first veteran on the line ever. So thank you for your service. And to answer your question, Army and Michigan, do I think they could pull off the upset? I think you asked that a second ago. Make sure. Yeah, watch what Army does against Michigan. That is, I think, a game that everybody has on the radar for Michigan as a very big trap game to watch out for Army, because they could pull off an upset at the Big House. I don't know. They lose their defensive coordinator. They don't return as many starters defensively, but their defense was really, really good last year. One of the best. You can't say independence. Independence in the conference, but their offense is not going to take a step back at all. Their offense is going to be one of the best. I want to say in the conference is Independence, but not one of the best in the nation. But Kelvin Hopkins is the real deal. This is a team that dropped 70 points on Houston in their bowl game. I know Houston's not nothing to brag about. They weren't last year at least, but still, 70 points in a postseason game and held that Houston offense to 14 points. That's impressive. That is impressive. So, and I think a lot of you guys have come from Mark's show. I saw Cheryl said that. I saw a couple of guys earlier say that. So, thank you. Thank you for coming over from Mark's show. He was doing a live call-in show. Now we're doing a live call-in show. We're always happy to share the viewers and share the knowledge of college football. So we're always happy to have you guys coming over from multiple different platforms. Silly Goose, Ball State is the best team in Indiana. I don't know how we get these trollers and these guys in here like that. But no, I'm sorry. Ball State is not the best team in Indiana. They aren't the best team in the MAC. They'll be lucky if they go bowling this year. They might be lucky if they win 5 games this year for the Cardinals. So I know a lot of you guys are getting annoyed with all Silly Goose over there. I love the name because it's very fitting, but we'll have to wait and play it all by ear for Ball State. You'll know what I feel about them and their MAC prediction. And for all I know, maybe I'll shoot out a Silly Goose shout out when it's all said and done. So, Mitch, absolutely, we'd love to have you call in the next stream. I know we're going to be ending it here soon, so no worries at all. And I'd love to hear from the rest of you guys. I know we had Comic Dude call in, but I'd love to hear from DM. I'd love to hear from Emperor of Rome whenever he's available to do a call. I know he doesn't say he doesn't have a phone, but still nonetheless, I'd love to hear from a lot of you guys. So, like I said, this is not the last time we're going to do a call-in show. This is the first of many. And once the season starts, I cannot wait for call-in shows because we're going to have so much to talk about. So much to talk about. I want to get back real quick, though. Where was it here? Joe, talking about the championship odds here. picking the best value play for the national championship against the odds. I don't have the odds on me. We can Google some. That's why we got a phone, or a laptop. But I know that I think Alabama and Clemson were up there as high as 7-2 odds for the national championship. But who's going to be the best play for 2019? Let's find out and let's discuss. Let's get it going right now. So this is via CBS Sports here. Let's see if we can get a list. So we've got Alabama, and if you guys want to chime in on this, and hopefully Joe's still on the line here. And of course, we'll still get to the rest of y'all's questions. But Alabama at 9-4 odds. Clemson also at 9-4 odds. No surprise there. The top two teams in the country had the same exact odds going into 2019. Georgia at 6-1. Michigan at 12-1. Ohio State 14-1. Oklahoma 16-1. LSU 20-1. Texas 25-1. Nebraska 30-1. You can keep working your way down. Notre Dame 50-1. So, of course, you can't rule out Notre Dame, but not very good odds for the Fighting Irish. Same odds as well for Notre Dame as Washington at 50-1 and Texas A&M at 50-1. Utah, biggest surprise team, I think, for everybody going into 2019, 80-1. And then you start getting deep into the hundreds. A team like Baylor, 100-1 odds, having the same odds as that of Miami or Wisconsin or Penn State. So if you're trying to pick the best play here for a national championship, if you're a bettor, if you like to gamble a little bit, and I would, once again, shameless plug, if you like to gamble, if you like to get some spread picks and some of the best spread picks out there to get some extra cash in your pocket, go to thegridironexpert.com and sign up for spread picks, because I can promise you, you do not want to miss out on that. And it's an extremely low fee for the entire season's worth of spread picks, and it gets you every single bowl game spread pick as well. But if you're looking to gamble here and pick a best play to make yourself a little bit of money, I'm going to go lean towards Michigan, maybe 12-1. I'd say Michigan or Oklahoma personally. I like Michigan at 12-1 or Oklahoma at 16-1, and actually maybe you would even throw in LSU at 20-1. I remember Joe saying he bet, this was a while back when we did Penn State, but I remember talking to him about this, 100-1 odds on Penn State. He bet it. This year all depends on the offensive line. He thinks the offensive line will be sufficient. Defenses will get after every team it plays. He likes 100-1 with Penn State. So I love that. I love that. 100-1 odds on Penn State. They win the national title. You bet. I mean, depends on how much you want to bet. I can't remember how much you bet on Penn State to win it, but you can make some serious cash if they pull it off. But one team that I do like a lot is LSU. 20-1 odds for the Tigers, boasting one of the best defenses in the entire nation and an offense that's going to be dangerously good with Joe Burrow and that crew of wide receivers. If they get into the playoff, they could win. And I know 20-1 is not as big as 100-1. So, obviously not going to be making as much. But I like LSU. I like LSU to do really, really well this year, assuming they don't choke against a team like Florida or Mississippi State or maybe even Texas. I don't know if I consider that a choke because that's a tough place to play. But nonetheless, LSU at 20-1 odds, you bet $10 on that, you turn $10 into 200. So not too bad at all. Listen to Tef. He just signed up just a couple of weeks ago. Listen to Tef. He signed up with thegridironexpert.com. Make sure you don't forget to do it either. So I'm glad it paid off for you, Tef, and I hope it pays off even better for you this year. So I'm glad you enjoyed that, though. Ryan Mell, LSU ceiling is infinite. I have no trust that they will perform to their ceiling. That's been the case for LSU for a long time. Yeah, they've got all this talent. They bring in so much talent, but they never really break through. When's the last time LSU won a national title? That was like, 2007? That was under Les Miles. And keep in mind, 2007 was the year that they had 2 losses. And DM, I see your comment there. Signing up next week, that means a lot. That always means a lot. So I appreciate that. Appreciate that. I know a lot of you guys have signed up for the newsletter. And I'm going to send that out second week in August. So that means a lot. Tef, I appreciate that quality info. Means a lot. That means a lot, no doubt. But back to LSU. No, nothing gets me more fired up than that 2007 season. I mean, look, back then you had the BCS system, so there was nothing you could do about it. We didn't have a playoff system because I can guarantee you that if we had the playoff system in 2007, LSU wouldn't have been in it. But everything worked out to their advantage. LSU falls. They had fallen earlier in the year, I think, to Kentucky. And then they fell to Arkansas in 3 overtimes at the end of the season, so for their second loss. But then everybody ahead of them lost. And we got to keep in mind, Kansas was a national title contender. West Virginia was a national title contender. We had some legit teams high up there. They just kept losing. So LSU dropped with that loss to Arkansas, who was a 6 or 7 win team at the time. Fell down, went right back up, won the national title. Haven't won since. Has only been back once, if I'm not mistaken. That 21-0 loss to Alabama in New Orleans. So LSU brings in this talent every single year and can't utilize it. They don't get the most of their expectations. I mean, I know Alabama's in that division, and Alabama's doing a better job recruiting. And Nick Saban, I think, the best coach in the entire nation, so has the edge over Orgeron in that regard. But still, you can't. I mean, I think it's embarrassing that LSU hasn't beaten Alabama since 2011, the game of the century, number 1, number 2, 9-6. That's bad. That's bad. LSU's got to turn it around. I don't think it's going to be this year. This is the year they could beat Alabama. And man, if this game was in Death Valley, oh man, I would be picking the Tigers. I really would. But they got to go to Tuscaloosa. They got to go to Bryant-Denny. And that game's going to be close, but not going to be enough. Not going to be enough, unfortunately, for LSU. So going through the rest of the comments here, the phones have died down a little bit as we near the end of our live stream here. But, of course, I appreciate the kind words from everybody. And I saw a comment here. We were talking about quarterbacks. We'll get up there in a second. Cole Converse, does the gridiron expert, do I, consider a BYU prayer throw that's caught to win a game a Hail Maroney? That is something that only BYU fans can answer. That is something only they can answer. Not a Hail Mary, but a Hail Maroney. I love it. I love it. Jeff Wilson, what do I think about Kelly Bryant? I think he's going to fit in perfectly with that offense at Missouri. I think that he's going to fit in perfectly there. And I think he can very well lead Missouri to 9 or 10 wins. And I want more than anything. There are some schools that I don't wish this upon. But I wish Missouri would get that bowl ban lifted. There are some schools that I want them to have that bowl ban. They deserve it. Missouri does not. And this year, this Missouri team is so talented with Kelly Bryant, their quarterback, that I do think they can win 9 or 10 games and make a decent bowl game, a very good bowl game, and play a quality opponent. And I don't know if they're appealing it, and we haven't had any word on that. But if they keep that bowl ban up, that once again shows the corruption and how idiotic and how incompetent the NCAA is. If they keep that bowl ban on Missouri, that just comes to show how corrupt this organization, this, I call it a company, how ridiculous it is. So Kelly Bryant going to do great in Missouri. Missouri's going to do fine this year, bowl ban or no bowl ban. But for me, as a fan and certainly as a player, it hurts to know that anything that I do, any work that I put in, any games that I win, pretty much don't mean anything because I don't get to go to the postseason. Missouri could go undefeated, and with that bowl ban, no SEC title, no college football playoff. See that team maybe have a year of their life and fail to get to the bowl game or you know, make the college football playoff or whatever. So the NCAA needs to figure it out, and kind of figure out, you know, work on more important things and decide more fair punishments for bigger crimes and bigger you know, corrupt things, for bigger I'm trying to think of the word, allegations. It's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. So coming down here once again, back down to the chat. So Eli Arbeza, glad you were able to join us, my man. Always happy when you're able to be here. BYU has a lot of home games against good teams. I think they'll win 9 to 10 games. Yeah, Eli, you're right. That they're lucky they get to host those games. But is the talent there for BYU to beat those teams at home? I know they host USC I think they host Washington. They host Utah. So that's 3 of their. Not leaving anybody major out, to my knowledge. California is not. Defense, phenomenal. Offense, not there. USC, down year last year. Will Clay Helton build them back up? UCLA, same thing with Chip Kelly. Unfortunate year 1 for them. Return a lot of starters. Will be one of the most experienced teams in the country. Not good enough yet. Stanford's the best team in California. No doubt in my mind. See what other comments we got here before we shut this live stream down here. Slowly wrapping up. Let's see. Joe, just Joe. Yep, we are slowly petering out, man. Thank you for joining us, though. Great discussion, great content, great questions. Thank you for joining us, Joe. I appreciate that. And then we're going to start wrapping things up. Harry, if you had to talk about any other sport besides football, what sport would it be? Harry, it would be basketball. And I cannot stress that enough. I love all sports across the board. I know Emperor of Rome has been here. We've talked before, like, do I like hockey? Do I watch – I watch anything. I mean, football, basketball, baseball, hockey. I watch golf on occasion for, like, the Masters and the U.S. Open, stuff like that. I do watch that kind of stuff. But if I had to choose, I would do basketball. I think that's something that could bring the most content out of. Baseball, the season's so long. You know, you got a super long season, got a lot to discuss, got a game every day. You lose a game here or there, it doesn't matter as much as it does football, absolutely. And then basketball down the road when you get into, like, tournament time and playoff time. So basketball, for me, would be the sport that I would choose if, say, football didn't exist. And, guys, I know we had a couple. I see your question or your comment DM. Apologies to all of you if we've had any streaming issues, if we've had any audio issues. I hope you guys have been able to hear me all right. If we've had any freezing when we get phone calls, because my phone is synced to my laptop, the screen kind of slides away. I got to bring it back up. Obviously, we're trying something different here. Usually, we're filming our videos on the phone. I think it works a little bit better on my phone. But to do live call-in shows, we got to do it off the laptop. So apologize for any issues that we've had, but I appreciate all of y'all's support, and I appreciate all the call-ins and the comments, and I think this is probably the best live stream. I usually say that every time, but the best live stream we've had to date in terms of viewers, in terms of content, in terms of the analysis and the discussion, and of course, these live streams thrive off of you guys. It wouldn't be possible, so thank you. Thank you. And wrapping things up here, glad you guys are still here. Mike Myrick, of course, always appreciate that. Eli, no, I don't use dial-up internet. I don't know what you're talking about. No, but like you sync your phone. Like if I got a text right now, those texts are going to pop up on my Mac. I've got a MacBook Air, so it's going to pop up, and I'm going to see my text. And I can respond to text off of my laptop. And if I get a call, I can accept the call off my laptop or FaceTime off my laptop, stuff like that. So, no, I don't use dial-up internet, but I need to find a way to fix that. No doubt in my mind. Miami Sports, I see you there. I haven't seen you before, but yeah. Of course, we're going to accept all the calls that we can. So, yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you calling in. And this will be on YouTube. When this live stream is over, it will take a few minutes, but it will be uploaded to YouTube. So you can come back and watch it. You can listen to yourself if you called in. Or if you're, didn't get to catch the entire stream and you wanted to, you can go and watch it later on. So yes, it will be up on YouTube shortly after we end the stream. No doubt about that. So make sure you take a look at that if you want. Walter, my favorite NFL team? No comment. No comment. I know that's going to spark a bunch of discussion. We'll address that at a later date. But I have 2 teams that I follow more than any. More than any other team. Let's see what else we got here. Hunter Shin, the highest group of 5 team. If you're basing it off of who I think is the best right now, best group of 5 team, the cop-out answer is UCF just because of the success they've had the past 2 seasons. If you are basing it off of who I think could finish the highest ranked at the end of the season, that remains to be seen. There are so many group of 5 teams, Hunter, that can make an impact in 2019. UCF, of course, being the best. right now. But Houston is a team that if they pull off an upset against Oklahoma or Washington State or both, you got to watch out for them. I like Memphis. I like Cincinnati a lot this year. I really like this Bearcats team led under Luke Fickell. That game against Ohio State, of course, going to be interesting because Fickell used to, and Eli, once again, agreeing with me there. He and I think a lot alike. But Cincinnati and Luke Fickell going to Ohio State, him serving as interim head coach there many years ago. So that'll be an interesting game. But those are some teams that I can throw out there. I think you could throw out, if you're talking group of 5 as well, Boise State, of course, Utah State with Jordan Love, North Texas out of the Conference USA, probably because their schedule isn't going to be able to hit, a high rank. They do have a game against Houston. That will benefit them. But with that offense led by Mason Fine, the possibilities are endless. So definitely got to check that out. So, yeah, a lot of group of 5. That's one of the favorite things for me to see which group of 5 team will make the New Year's Six bowl game. Of course, that honor going to the highest ranked group of 5 team. Could be UCF, could be Boise State, could be Houston, could be Memphis, could be someone we're not even talking about right now. Could be Cincinnati, or it could be someone that just comes out of nowhere. That's what I love about college football, and that's why group of 5 teams matter. That's why group of 5 games matter, because a lot of those schools don't have a history of going to bowl games like Power 5 schools, but those guys can still fight for a spot to get to a bowl game, fight for their chance to get their first ever bowl win in school history. And if you're good enough, fight for a spot in a New Year's Six bowl game to play on national TV against a Power 5 opponent. That is why the group of 5 is so fun to watch. That's why, for me, those Tuesday night games, Wednesday night games, Thursday nights, those middle of the week games that you get to watch in the MAC or the Sun Belt or whatever, sometimes those have implications. You never know. And even if they don't, it's still football in the middle of the week. What's not to love about that? Yeah, coming to the numbers from Memphis. So what we did, we took a call, a number from this thing called Google Voice. That's what it's through. So if you call in, you got the prompt. It's like, say your name, and so you say your name, and then when I pick it up, that's who I hear is, we got a call from blank. So it's Google Voice. They didn't have numbers in Arkansas, so I took the next best thing, which is Memphis. That's about 3 hours from me, 2.5, 3 hours. So took that. I didn't want to take a call from like California, like a number. So Memphis, and I got to choose my number that they gave to me. That you had a list. So it's not from Arkansas for that reason. For some reason, Arkansas didn't have one. I live in the 501 right there in the capital, in Little Rock. But that's just kind of the way it works. But hey, I guess it gets the job done. It gets the job done, and I'll take it. Definitely cheaper than going out and buying a phone, a cheap phone at that, but another phone to try to handle all this. Yes, Cole, I certainly have come a long way since 2017. I went back and watched some old videos not too long ago and just couldn't help but cringe and wonder why I continue to pursue this channel. Because 2017, when we began this, and certainly back in 2016, very beginning of 2016, when we did the Mark Helfrich crap, that was wow, that was a time. That was interesting. But yes, we've come a long way. Couldn't have done it without you guys, and I'm happy where we're at right now. We continue to grow. 2,100 subscribers now. Tons of people on the live streams, call-in shows, on-site predictions, thousands of views. It's unbelievable. I couldn't ask for anything better. But yeah, man, 2017 feels like a long way away. Let's see what else we got here. DM, you're heading on out, man. Understandable. Hope you have a good night. Plenty of upcoming videos this weekend. I have one tomorrow, DM, that I think you are personally going to like. So stay tuned for that. You are going to love that video, DM, if you're still on the line. So comment Dude 45. I know it's late on your side of the country out there on the East Coast. So cheers to you. Good night. Husker D, I appreciate that. Husker, I will talk to Mark and Uncle Lou about that because I would love that more than anything. So we will definitely make sure to do that. DM, making me a subscriber expert. Thanks for another great show. You got it, man. I appreciate you for this, all the support. I really appreciate it more than anything. So Thank you guys and everybody else that's been here. We're going to close things out, but just to end it, I see the comment. Who was it from? Mike Myrick, Ball State. Silly Goose, we're closing the night talking about Ball State just for you. Just for you. To close out this almost 2-hour-long live stream, the longest ever here at the Gridiron Expert, a historic night for the Gridiron Expert, we will talk about Ball State. Of all the teams. Silly Goose. I will tell you what. I haven't looked much deep into Ball State, but what I can say is this. You lose your graduate quarterback in Riley Neal. Whether or not you liked him, I don't know. I don't know what your take is on the Cardinals. But now he's at Vanderbilt. You've got to deal with a brand-new quarterback over at Ball State. And if you can refresh my memory, I don't remember the last time Ball State made a bowl game. Was that back in 2012, 2013? I know they played Arkansas State in a bowl game, the GoDaddy Bowl. So, and that was probably about 5 or 6 years ago, if not longer. Since then, Ball State has not really been a contender in the MAC. Let's just put it plain and simple. You're looking at 2-win seasons, 3-win seasons. I think a couple of years ago, if I'm not mistaken, maybe they didn't win a game. I could be wrong on that, but I don't know if they did. Maybe it was 1-11. Nothing makes me believe, and once again, I'm going to look deeper into Ball State just for you, so make sure you watch our MAC recap. I expect you to be the first viewer of all the people to watch the MAC recap. I want to see it. But, and you to comment on that as well. But I don't expect much out of Ball State in 2019. Plain and simple. The MAC is too deep with too much talent. And I know that sounds ridiculous for that. You've got but like to say the MAC has a lot of talent. But Toledo, Ohio, Western Michigan, Northern Illinois. Those are some of the top 4 teams in the MAC, and the list can go on with a couple other teams that are Akron. It's not a team that's elite, but it's a team that can win. So be aware of that in the MAC. Ball State's not to that point where they're elite yet. Once again, will be picked at the bottom of their division, and you go from there. And you can – I love it. I love the MAC. It's the best conference in college football. Make sure you watch our MAC recap video. I expect a comment from you, Silly Goose, nobody else, but from you, and giving me your take on Ball State for the 2019 season. Mike, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate you joining the stream, of course, and thanks for coming in, as always. Deep Barat, we'll take you as our last caller. How's that sound? We're going to have you come in as our last caller, and then we're going to close things out for the night. But to everybody else, thank you for watching. We'll hit this here in a second. Mike, let me get you your number real quick. Or not Mike, Deep Barat, let me get it to you real quick for our last caller on the first ever live stream show, or first ever call-in show. See, I'm getting tired. Been doing this for almost 2 hours. Can't even hit all my words here. In Central Michigan, right, Walter making a good point. Eric Fisher, #1 pick in the 2013 NFL Draft. And Central Michigan this year, once again, being led by Jim McElwain, the former Florida head coach. So keep that in mind as well, that this MAC conference could be a little bit better than some expect. All right, our last call here coming in, if I believe it'll be from Deep Barat from Rosenberg, Texas.
Hey, how's it going?
How's it going? Good to hear from you.
Pretty good. So I actually just, I don't know if you're a newcomer or you've been on the YouTube for a while now, but I've been seeing some of your videos, man. I think they're pretty informative. Now, I just had a couple of quick comments, and I wanted to get your opinion on them. So I saw your Nebraska video, right? And I can see, why a lot of people are hyping up Nebraska this year. But, and I even commented in your YouTube video, like for a team that's gone 4-8, I believe, 2 years in a row, I just don't see the hype for a 10-win season. Now, I know that their division sucks. They got one good recruiting class that's like, number 20 or something, the top 20 recruiting class last year. I know that Scott Frost won the quote-unquote national championship at UCF. But, man, I'm just feeling like the ceiling for this team is 8-4. I think they can still miss a bowl game. I think that they're probably going to be a 6-6 or 7-5 team at best. And I also also think, one last comment to that, I also think that Northwestern, not only are they the returning champion because they won the division last season, but I think that they returned, or not they returned, but they get Hunter Johnson. He's a very highly rated 5-star QB. And obviously Purdue is very dangerous. Wisconsin's looking to rebound. I think that Nebraska is still a ways away. But I just want to hear what you have to say about that.
Yeah, no, that's a very, very good point, very good question, and obviously something that everybody has been talking about because we've addressed the Big Ten West, especially, as you mentioned, is practically wide open. You have, like you said, Northwestern, the team that won it last year and does add Hunter Johnson at quarterback. You have Purdue, who is continuing to improve and has made back-to-back bowl games under Jeff Brom. That's a phenomenal job that he's doing. Wisconsin, Jonathan.
I also believe that Purdue got a good recruiting class last season. I could be wrong on that.
No, they did. He's doing a phenomenal job on the recruiting trail. Pair that with so you got some young guns that could make an immediate impact. Pair that with Sindelar at quarterback, 9 starters back on defense, and Rondale Moore, he's one of the toughest players to stop in all of college football. But
again, I know that Cross has only been in the job for 1 year, but I think if he misses a bowl game again this year, even if he improves to 5-7 or 6-6, I think 6-6 they'll make a bowl game because they're Nebraska. They're somewhat, big media audience that'll attract some bowl game. If they do make one at 6-6, I think they'll go to a bowl game. But I think if he misses another bowl game, I think he's on the hot seat.
Yeah, if you said if he misses a bowl game, is that right?
Correct.
Yeah, look, I mean, Scott Frost came in here to turn this Nebraska program around. I was a fan of Bo Pelini during his time with the Cornhuskers. I thought he was a passionate coach and he was fun to watch. And I thought he did a good job with them. I think they got rid of him a little too early. But Nebraska is that team that expects to win. They expect to not just win and go to bowl games. They expect to compete for conference championships and national championships, kind of back in their glory days. And so if Scott Frost comes in here, who's their kind of wonder boy, was an alum of Nebraska, played at Nebraska, to come in here and fail to get to a bowl game in back-to-back years he would certainly be on the hot seat going into 2020, just because even though they went 4-8 last year, you saw a drastic change in Nebraska's play. They started off 0-6. Some of those games early on, like Colorado and Troy, which the Troy loss is inexcusable. I know they were good, but still, were close. And then they only lost to Ohio State by 5. They lost to a good Iowa team by 3. So you saw improvement down the road and won 4 of their last 6. To not go to a bowl game in 2019 would no doubt show that he's moving backwards, way backwards. And, yeah, he's on the hot seat 2020, no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, and an interesting point I want to make on this, too, is that I don't know if you're like a diehard. It seems like you're a diehard college football fan. So
no, absolutely.
Probably aware of what's traditionally known as the college football Bluebloods, right? And I think that Nebraska is still considered a college football blue blood, just one of the lower 8, probably number 8 right now because of their receding performance since the Tommy Osborne era, ever since Tom Osborne. They've struggled in the Big 12 and then moved over to the Big 10, and they're still struggling. And the question is that are they kind of just another average program again, or are they really the Nebraska that is historically known to be Nebraska?
Right. No, that's a good point. That discussion of blue bloods can go on forever. People will always have an opinion on that, saying this team is a blue blood, this team isn't a blue blood. But you took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to talk about Tom Osborne, and that is the reason that I think people still consider them a blue blood. It's because of the past. Because in recent years, Nebraska has not been that type of dominant team like an Alabama or a Notre Dame or someone like that. Those are that considered typical blue bloods in legendary college football schools. But I think for Nebraska to kind of change gears a little bit for this season, they have struggled in recent years. They want to compete. And I think back in 2016, they were as high as number, 8 in the country. They were up there in contention and then ended up slipping down a ways. But for this season, the reason that I have them so high, and I think why a lot of people have them so high, is, as I mentioned, the success and the change and improvement that they had towards the end of last season. And then it's on top of bringing people back. And I'm sure you might already know this, but I'll reiterate to the guys that are watching here. And I get it's a different team. I get it's a different conference. But Frost in his first year at UCF went 6-7. So he made a bowl and lost. And the second year was when he went undefeated and beat Auburn in the Peach Bowl. And that's what landed him this job here at Nebraska. So a very quick turnaround for Scott Frost. 2 years at Central Florida, and boom, he's landed a Power 5 job at a blue blood school, as some would say. But I think this year, in year 2, with the amount of returning talent he has back, including Martinez at quarterback, because I think he's the real deal. Even though last year I don't think his numbers were that good. It was good for a freshman, and I know he battled injuries at times. He's back with a great crew of wide receivers, and I think 8 back on defense, plus the guys that they were able to play that weren't necessarily were starters. This team just feels maybe they don't win 10 games. I know our guy Emperor of Rome earlier asked me which team or which prediction that I feel least confident about. And I feel confident about Nebraska, but I'm also not going to be surprised at all if they go, like you said, maybe 8-4 or 9-3.
Right. So I just want to, I think that me and you are kind of going to be aligning on the same page. You agree that there's 8 consensus Bluebloods, though. I know that a lot of people, by emotion, are going to be passionate and say that my team should be a blue blood or this team should not be a blue blood. But do you agree that there's 8 of those? And I think you already know the original 8 too, right? But or are we kind of a little bit on the other fence on that in terms of like 8 all-time blue bloods, or do you think there's even more than 8?
It's a tough call. You look at it, like you said, everybody's going to make their case. To me, the blue blood conversation is like everybody's conversation about which is, DBU or running back U. Everybody's going to say, oh, our team is, and that's not the case. And really that discussion can be. But you're right. I think there are 8 solid blue bloods. I think you can debate and make arguments for a handful, not a lot, but a handful of teams to be considered a blue blood. So maybe you extend it from.
You do agree on the original 8?
Yes, I do agree on the original 8. Yes.
Okay, so there's no like those 8 are in a league of their own. Like they're the original. I guess I don't want to say founders of college football, but they kind of carry the game throughout the course of history. You think that there's probably a couple of other programs that are good, but can never be considered a blue blood. I think that's what you mean by that.
I do agree with that. Absolutely.
Like I think after those 8, I just want to put this out there. I think that Tennessee and Penn State are the 2 closest to close out that top 10 list. And the reason I say that is because Tennessee's been around since 1891. They've won 6 national championships. I know they've been sucking recently, but they've produced some legendary quarterbacks. They've produced great national champions in the past. I think it's just an era that we're going through right now. Tennessee sucking. Right. And also the same thing with Penn State. I know that Penn State, particularly in that other side of the division, the Big Ten, they haven't won a national championship since the 1980s. But, Penn State is also a historic program. It's just that they have to play, I don't like Michigan, so I'm going to say this, like Michigan and Ohio State every year. So I think that that's part of the reason why you can't consider Penn State a blue blood yet, but they're still in the top 10, I think.
Sure, and I agree with that. I mean, what you said about Tennessee is something that I think we have to always keep in the kind of the back of our head too. Tennessee, you said we're kind of living in an era right now where they are kind of sucking. They haven't been very good, not at least in terms of the national stage. And that's something we have to keep in mind. Even though you have these 8 blue bloods and maybe a handful of others that are maybe on the outside looking in, you can be a blue blood and in present day have a down year or 2 or 3 or however long it's going to take. I mean, Alabama, before they landed Nick Saban, was not necessarily, considered a national title contender. Ohio State, has gone through a couple of rough patches themselves. Not many, but every now and then you have those teams that struggle. That's going to happen for any team. And I think
here's the thing that people don't understand, right? Is that I understand that Alabama's been the king of the college football playoff era. And they had a couple years, I'd say 1 year really, or a couple years actually, where they were But the reality was, man, and I don't know how old you are, but it seems like you're around the age range, mid to late 20s. Like, Alabama was a trash can program between 1993 and 2008. Like, they had several 3-9 seasons, 3-8 seasons, 5-7 seasons, and frankly, they scored in some mix. They were a blue blood, of course, because they had good history and always elite. But I think until Nick Saban arrived, I think Alabama was not considered, at that particular era, elite. You know what I mean?
No chance. Yeah.
Like, they were still a blue blood, but they just, they're going through what Tennessee is going through right now. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but Tennessee was one of the elite programs in the 1990s.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah.
Right. So I think, I think that people rush to conclusions when they say Miami is a blue blood or Clemson is a blue. That's the funniest thing I've heard is when someone says Clemson is a blue blood, or Clemson is approaching blue blood.
Right, because they're not, because they just had a bunch of recent success. And by recent, I mean probably the past decade, spanning back to 2010. But you don't become a blue blood based on 10 and really basically the past. I'd say even more the past 5 years. That's not what qualifies you as a blue blood.
Yeah, and the thing is that between, I think they won one other championship, one in 1981. No one knew who they were until Dabo came, right? And I still think that they'd have to. I think what they're doing right now is what the Miami was in the 1980s and 1990s. I think Clemson is kind of approaching the Miami bubble. I think that unless they win a several consistent stream of national championships, it could become like a Notre Dame. But I think that right now, if you think of Clemson, it reminds me very seriously of Miami in the 1980s and 1990s.
Right. No, I would fully agree. I think you and I are on the same page with a lot of this stuff.
Okay, cool. So I just had a couple of other prediction questions I got to ask you, and then I'll let you go. What are your thoughts? And again, I'm not saying that I'm predicting this. I do have them as winning the Pac-12, and I do think that they have a legitimate shot at winning the Pac-12 and possibly even the college football playoff if they have a good season. But I think that Stanford is a legitimate threat and a legitimate contender for the Pac-12 championship this year. I know I shouldn't even be saying this because they've won the Pac-12 the most amount of times this decade. And I know that they just came off the Sun Bowl and they didn't even win the Pac-12 last year. But the reality is if you look at their schedule, they play all of their tough games at home. They play Notre Dame, they play Oregon, they play Washington. The only hard game that you can say is hard is that they're going to be playing UCF on the road. But I still think Stanford is a far better football program than UCF. I think that UCF hasn't played enough elite Power 5 teams like Stanford to really kind of judge. And also another very interesting point on this is that Stanford retains KJ Costello. And a lot of people are overhyping Justin Herbert. I know he's a rising 3-star quarterback who is considered to be one of the favorites to go in the draft, this upcoming cycle, and he's really, gotten better per se, but he hasn't even won the division. Oregon did not win the division last year. They were behind Washington State and Washington. So I just want to know what your thoughts are on the Stanford Cardinal and what your thoughts are on, KJ Costello, if Stanford is a legitimate threat to the Pac-12 and possibly a college football playoff run if they finish, let's say, 12-1.
Yeah, no. When we did our Stanford predictions, very good points in the sense that they do get to host Oregon and Washington and Notre Dame. So, and obviously the Notre Dame game going to be huge, especially if Stanford is in contention for college football playoff. But if you're talking Pac-12, that game doesn't matter at all. But it's just conference games. And I made the point. I said if they pull off, I think just one of those upsets. I think I do have them beating. I think it's Washington. I think they have them falling to Oregon, but beating Washington. But if they beat one of those teams, they're no doubt a contender in the Pac-12. But I think to go back and look, I think I have Stanford finishing 7-2 in conference play, but I have them finishing 8-4 overall because I have them right now falling to Notre Dame at home, and right now I have them falling on the road to Central Florida. And of course, those predictions are always subject to change later on down the road. So 2 conference losses with a win over Washington and a 3-way tie for first in terms of conference record, all at 7-2. But I have Oregon and.
But I think they have the resume, man. I think they have the resume to make a college football playoff. Like they play UCF, they play.
If they win the games, yes. If they win the games, they have the resume. So if they beat, hypothetically, let's say they beat Oregon, Washington, UCF. Let's say they run the table and then fall to Notre Dame. Let's just say that. Well, of course they're going to make the Pac-12 championship game because they're going to be undefeated in conference play. That Notre Dame game wouldn't hurt them. I wouldn't think that much because I think Notre Dame's going to be legit. I think they're playoff contenders. I don't think they're going to go undefeated like they were last year. But yes, they're going to be good. And that game, presumably against Notre Dame, would be close. Wouldn't hurt them that much, especially if they win the Pac-12 championship over, I don't know who would be, let's say Utah. You win at all those games, no doubt they've got the resume for it because those are all top 25 teams right off the bat in Oregon, Washington, UCF, Notre Dame, and then sprinkle in a few teams that could sneak their way into the top 25 as the season goes on.
Okay, cool. Very interesting. I think that's the most exciting divisional race right now because I think those 3 teams, Stanford, Washington, and Oregon, are very closely matched. And the thing with Stanford is that nobody's talking about them, so they have the underdog factor that I think that they can surprise everybody. I mean, I know it's not surprising because they've had runs before. Like they had Andrew Luck, they almost made the BCS national title game in 2011. But I think that there's a genuine chance that Stanford can make a run and no one will see it.
I would agree with that. I worry a little bit about the lack of the running game. I know they lost Bryce Love, and I know he wasn't as big of a factor last year as he was 2 years ago. But you mentioned KJ Costello a lot, and if you go back and watch our Stanford prediction, and every time we mention Stanford, you hear me say that because of the loss of Bryce, I know they've got guys that are going to come in and do just fine. But KJ Costello is one of the best quarterbacks in the Pac-12, if not the best quarterback. I think for now I'd put Herbert above him, but right now, yes. And you look at that, and they're going to be, I'm not going to say air raid, but they're going to be passing the ball a whole lot more. And I think that's something that we haven't seen a lot of out of Stanford in a while, just because of the talent they've had on the ground game. You go back to Christian McCaffrey, especially his threat in the passing game, but Christian McCaffrey and Bryce Love and guys like that. So your comment in the sense that no one would see it coming, you hit it right on the head, because I think everybody's so focused on Washington, who's won that division the past few years, Oregon, just with the amount of hype they're getting, and you can even throw Washington State in there just because they nearly won it last year, and you never want to count out Mike Leach. So you're right that I'm not going to call them a dark horse just because of the success they've had in recent years, but I think they are getting a little overshadowed.
Yeah, that's the ironic thing, is that they've won the Pac-12 the most this decade. They've won it, I believe, I don't know, I think it's 7, but I think they've won a lot of Pac-12 titles this decade. But that's what I'm saying, right? I mean, it's one of those schools that no one will ever talk about unless they're super elite or something, happens. But yeah, I mean, I definitely do agree that they're a dark horse. I think they're going to surprise some people this year. I think they have that type of potential. But like I said, I mean, Stanford was hyped up this past year, but they had a couple of losses towards the end of the season that really, I don't want to say ended their season, but they were in some polls in the early 4 or 5 weeks they were in the top 10, I believe. So I mean, almost top 5. So it's one of those teams that has swings. So you never know from Stanford. But I'll end on this note, and I have a final. I guess this is my final question and then projection as well. Is so kind of done some basic I guess you can say nerdy modeling, taking into account starters and production and swings and momentum, and I've come up with my 4 college football playoff teams. I think the 4 are going to be obviously Alabama and Clemson. I think until proven otherwise, I think that they look too good to be broken. I know people are going to overhype Georgia and the SEC, but I just don't think that they can beat Tua his junior year. But the other 2 that are more interesting, I think, And they're not really super interesting because I guess Ohio State was always on the cusp of playoff last year. I guess they were, missed the edge over Oklahoma because of that Purdue game. But I think that Ohio State's going to be that third team. But what are your thoughts? And this is my fourth team. I think that there is a legitimate shot. And this isn't an order of ranked 1 to 4. This is just the 4 playoff teams.
Sure.
The fourth team, I think, is legitimately going to be Texas next year. And I know, some people don't buy the hype that Texas is back or Texas is here, or whatever that means, but I think that Sam Ehlinger is a legitimate Heisman threat next year. I think they make a legitimate case to be a Heisman finalist. The Big 12 media days kind of, put him out there as the number 1 quarterback in the conference. And Oklahoma lost a lot of production. They obviously lost their QB. They lost their entire offensive line. They lost their star wide receiver. And I know they're trying to reload with Jalen Hurts, but I don't think that Jalen Hurts is as good as Sam Ehlinger is. Now, I'm not trying to say that because, I'm going to be honest, I am also a Texas fan. But,
Sure.
I genuinely believe that Texas will make that run next year, particularly because of the improvements we've seen over Tom Herman's tenure. Inherited 5-17, went 7-6, went 10-4. So they've been a linear 2 to 3 game improvement every year. But the important question I got to ask you is that, what are your thoughts on the next season for Texas? Do you think they can make that plus 2 to 3 game improvement from the previous year? Do you buy the hype of Ehlinger? Do you buy the hype of Colin Johnson and those wide receivers and the younger defense? Or do you think it's still too early to say that?
No, I think I certainly am buying the hype in Sam Ehlinger. I mean, people forget this guy counted for 41 touchdowns last year for Texas, 25 passing and 16 on the ground. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. So, when you look at the stats, when you compare the stats for the guys that were in the Heisman contention, now Tua, Trevor Lawrence, I know he wasn't necessarily in the case, but Tua and Kyler Murray and guys like that, their stats were unbelievable. Out of the senior year, which I believe he should, Texas will once again be a threat in 2020, much like I already have them being a threat in 2019. I mean, you look at this Texas team, I think we will have a very good idea of how good this Texas team can be in week 2 against LSU. If they beat LSU, a team that I think will have one of the best defenses in the entire country, if they beat LSU, I know that game's in Austin, which will really benefit them, but if they beat them, they are not just Big 12 title contenders, but absolutely playoff contenders. Because the rest of their schedule, I don't see many losses for Texas, if any. I think if they beat LSU, their toughest games are Iowa State and Oklahoma. And
I just want to throw in a couple of very interesting stats. So Texas is 8-1-1 versus LSU in the state of Texas, and 7-1-1 in Austin, Texas, all time. Now I know some of those games are a little bit older, but Texas generally does not lose in Austin, Texas to SEC teams. Now I know the SEC is a little bit different now; it's a little bit better conference than what it was, but I just. I think that I think it'll be an evenly matched game. I think though that Texas would have that slight edge because the game is in Austin, Texas this year. And then the other interesting stat I want to throw in is the Iowa State thing you mentioned. Now I know that Iowa State is this dark horse; they've improved a lot, right? I respect that, but Iowa State, interestingly enough, has only beaten Texas twice in its history, 2-14. Texas, surprisingly, even when they were a bad team, right, even when they were barely making bowl games or not making bowl games, they lost to Iowa State once, like in 2015. So in that entire stretch, they won every game in Ames, Iowa. Now the question is is the hype, of Iowa State really that good? I mean, I guess we're going to find that out this year, but it's going to be an interesting game. I think it's going to be a winter environment in Ames, Iowa. I think in November or December, I believe that's when the game is. I think it's in November. It can't be in December. December is bowl season, but it's very late in November, and they haven't played a game in Ames that late. I think that particular, those two stats, it's going to be interesting to see if it's possible to be reversed or not. A lot of Oklahoma fans, I mean, I know that they've won the Big 12 so think they're going away, but I think that this particular year might be that first year we see that reversal. So yeah, what are your thoughts?
No, I'll say that, and then we'll have to cut you off here because we are run out of battery. But I will to finish off on that. I will say that I've said it over and over again that Oklahoma and Texas are the top two teams in the Big 12 right now, and I've said Iowa State is third. And I know some people believe in the hype, some people don't. But I think if Texas, just to kind of tie it all up, if Texas wants to break through and win the Big 12, and then on top of that wants to make the college football playoff as a national title contender, they have to do it this year or next year, assuming the majority of their people come back in 2020. And I'm not saying that after 20, if they don't do that between now and 2020, that their hopes are lost. But this just feels like the opportunity is up there for the taking. That, like you said, Oklahoma's not going down necessarily, but I feel like this is kind of like Ohio State and Michigan. Ohio State's going to be just fine. They're still going to be very talented, but Michigan, I feel like this is the year that they want to win the Big Ten and beat Ohio State. They've got to do it this year. And I think Texas is kind of in the same scenario with the talent that they have. And I have faith in Herman to continue the success down the road, but I think this team is very, very special. And the same thing for next year, that if they step it up, I think it needs to happen this year or next year. And I think this is their best chance, personally, this season. I have them going 10-2 with a loss to LSU and Iowa State. If they beat Iowa State or LSU, if they win one of those games, they're 11-1. And they're a Big 12 championship away from making the college football playoff this season, like you predict. So it's extremely possible.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate your thoughts, man. And cheers. Have a lovely rest of your Friday.
Absolutely. You too, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah, for sure. Bye-bye.
All right, guys. So that was obviously a little longer than we anticipated, but some phenomenal discussion there. Great discussion across the board, stretching basically across the entire Power 5, across all of college football. So very good discussion there, and a pretty great way to cap off the night. Wasn't banking on it going that long, but it was some good discussion, and we'll take it. I know Eli thinks that's debatable, but you and Deep Barat, maybe you guys can get into some political discussion after the live stream. But guys, this has been the longest live stream ever here at the Gridiron Expert. We unfortunately will not be taking any more calls tonight. We are shutting things down because it is late on my end. I'm sure for some of you guys it's late on your end as well. But the longest live stream, the first ever call-in show. Thought it went very well, and we appreciate you guys taking the time to join us on this Friday night. So you guys have a great rest of the night. Mike Myrick, Cheryl Jensen, thank you guys very much for joining us. Thank you to all of our callers tonight here at the Gridiron Expert across the board. Please continue to like, comment, subscribe. Go check out our website, thegridironexpert.com. Sign up for our expert picks. Sign up for our newsletter. And, of course, follow us on Twitter and Instagram because that's where we post when we're going to go live again. So history was made tonight, and I couldn't think of a better way to spend it. I couldn't think it could go on any better. So, guys, thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of the night and a very safe weekend. We'll see you next time on the Gridiron Expert.